For me, now, after 15 years of exploring it, freak means a radically different person on stage, entertaining with their radical difference. I cannot but help exploit my physique when I'm performing. I think what's interesting about me is my personality. Of course, these are different and they're interesting to look at, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm powerful and awesome, and I have these, and I'm a freak, and I'm an actor, and I'm a freak actor playing a freak, and it's awesome.
You're listening to the Mystic Menagerie podcast, your regular descent into the world of alternative entertainment, art, and culture. Bolt the door, light the fire, and pour yourself a glass of Virgin Rouge, and let your hosts, Dan Baines and Lord Freddie Valentine, guide you through the Stygian depths of your darkest delights. Warning. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the Mystic Menagerie podcast. I'm Dan Baines and I'm joined by my co-host Lord Freddie Valentine.
Hello.
Hello, you right, mate?
Fantastic.
Good. And from that little intro there, can you tell what episode number we're at already?
Yes, we are. The average age of the combat soldier in
Birmingham.
World War II, isn't it? Birmingham, yeah. The average age of the combat soldier in Syria. It's 19.
19. It certainly is. Episode number 19, which is pretty good. We're getting into the 20s soon. We've come a long way in the past year and a half.
Exactly. I think a lot of them have just dropped off onto 16.
They did, yeah. As soon as we got past 12, I think quite a few of them dropped off.
But 19, that's quite a lot. I mean, getting into 20 figures, you know what I mean? So it's a rapid pace. We're definitely getting the numbers of shows up here. So it's
yeah, and we've also changed things around quite a lot in the last sort of few months. Obviously, we've got the new website up and running. We've got the blog.
Yep.
And we've got a few pages which we're going to talk about in a moment. But we've decided, we had a bit of a discussion over the last week, because I'm obviously the producer, so I have to edit all the shows together. And the last 2 or 3 shows have been lots of fun to record. But to the listener, it is 3 hours worth of random, well, not random, we do have an agenda when we record the show, but we tend to go off on tangents quite a bit, and we've lost a bit of the original structure of a magazine type show, haven't we?
Yeah, it's become lunacy rather than the structure.
It has.
So we're giving ourselves a bit of a straitjacket from now on, I think, aren't we?
Yeah, we gave ourselves a bit of a stiff talking to, and we're going to go back to the original magazine structure of the show. So we're going to have like the editorial, which is what you've got now, and then we're going to go off into interviews, reviews. We're still going to retain the Fortean Oracle section as before, but we're gonna fence Nathan in to his own area, so he can't ramble off all over the rest of the show, because he's very good in his area, but we tend to lose a lot of structure. He's a free spirit.
Free spirit, yeah. It's a stream of consciousness.
He is. It's like trying to contain fog.
So I've got free flying. He's got an amazing mind, which just it's almost like his mind's like a TARDIS. It jumps from time zones to different dimensions and all sorts of stuff. So and keep in the Fortean Oracle. I think that's where we can keep that distilled, that energy. Yeah.
So we're going to go back to how it was originally when we first started the podcast, albeit a bit more professional as we were then. Obviously we've got better sound quality, better equipment. We've got a nice fancy new website and a platform to host the podcast from, but we're going to go back to more of a magazine type show, because it allows people to jump to certain sections. If there's something you're interested in, like this show, we're going to be talking about interdimensional portals. You can jump to that part of the show, and that's what you're going to hear about.
Definitely. And I think we've got a good show lined up this month, haven't we? Actually, we've got some really good stuff.
We have. I think this is probably one of the best shows I've ever put together. I've been sitting down putting it together and listening back. It is up there with my top definitely my top 2 shows.
Yeah. There's some great guests we've got lined up this month as well, haven't we? Really good guests.
Yeah, we've got Matt Fraser, star of American Horror Story, Freak Show.
Yeah, and he'll be talking about, of course, American Horror Story, which he had a big part in Freak Show, and also his own career. You know, as a disabled performer, you know, he's someone who's quite an inspirational character, I'd say, because he's the sort of person who just gets on, does stuff, very good attitude, and also embraces the history of the carnival side of things, you know, of the history of freak shows and that kind of thing. He embraces himself fully in it. He's a great guy, and he's a really a great performer as well. You know, I've worked with him in the past, done shows with him, and he's a fantastic performer. And to hear his side of the story and his life, you know, and the things he's done, he's a very interesting person to talk to. He's done some amazing things, actually, and as people hear in interviews, some of the things that he's been involved with is pretty fantastic. You know, like the Olympic ceremony, Paralympic ceremony, and playing drums at Coldplay and stuff like that. He's done so many amazing things. So you'll hear it from Matt himself. So that's a brilliant interview lined up. And also we've got another great person on the show. We've got royalty this month, haven't we?
We certainly have, and we have been knighted. So we are officially now knights of the Round Table.
Yeah, we are, and we're prepared. We're prepared to, you know, we will back our king. We'll go to battle if necessary. You know, so you know, we are now humble servants of the great King Arthur Uther Pendragon, who's a very big name in Druidry in the UK. And the American listeners may not know of King Arthur, but in the UK, he's very well known in Druid circles. If you go to Stonehenge at solstice, you'll see Arthur there with full robes and Excalibur with him, and he knights people. So he's a fantastic chap. To have him on the show, you'll hear from the man himself, Arthur, on the show. Again, another person with a great interest in life, amazing stories to tell, and a really interesting bloke to talk to. So we've got him on the show as well. So 2 really fantastic guests this month, haven't we?
We have, and we've also got your budgies again back in the background.
Yep, they're away
Frankie
today.
And Sally, is it?
Frank and Sally, yeah, they're
That's
away
it.
today. The thing is, I think there may be more because I think they might be mating. Because what's happened is I give them lettuce, you know, in this little pot. They love it. And Frank's very fat; he's very greedy. And Sally was throwing the lettuce on the floor, just turfing out the pot, throwing it on the floor. And I thought she was trying to wind him up because every time she did it, he was screaming at her. It's like going out to a fat person, taking away their McDonald's and throwing it in the bin. It's that kind of thing. But I think she might be trying to make a nest, you know, because it's their breeding season. Because they're kissing a lot. They're very smoochy at the moment, and he keeps trying to climb on her back all the time. Trying to put a leg up on her back, but she pushes him off. It's like, no, none of that. It's a bit George and Mildred-esque, you know what I mean? So she keeps trying to push him off, and sometimes he takes a tumble to the bottom of the cage, you know. I suppose that's the equivalent of giving him a cold shower, but the way they're behaving, I think there could be, like, you know, some baby budgies in the show. So there could be a prize for any Patreon subscribers who want a baby budgie. Give it
baby budgies, yeah. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, the lettuce story reminds me of my best mate when he was many moons ago, when he was going out with this girl. She was worried that she was getting slightly a bit porky, so she wanted a McDonald's one night, so he actually got in the car with her, and the McDonald's was on like a large roundabout, you know, like an island. You know, I forgot, if I don't know what they'd call them in America, traffic circle or something. But there was a McDonald's on this island, so he drove up to it, and as they were about to pull in, he actually just kept driving round and said, "No, you're too fat," and just drove back home, just to make a point, which I thought was, I don't know, slightly cruel and slightly funny at the same time, but he's quite a controlling type of character.
Oh, it's funny. I mean, I remember a bloke who was really, I mean, this guy was about sort of 25 stone, you know. To American listeners, that's probably the average weight, but in England, that's considered to be huge. And he got a job as a driving instructor, working for one of these schools, like BSM or something like this. And this bloke could eat like 10 meals a day. And when he was getting a student driving in, he goes, just drive in there, just to that drive through that KFC. Just go, okay, just park at the window there. And they'd buy like KFC and eat it while they were driving. Okay, put your indicators on, turn left down there. Ugh. Just go down there. There's a McDonald's down. Just drive into that McDonald's, drive up to the window slowly. Okay, put your brake. And he just gets people to drive around and get them takeaways all
doing
day.
Parallel parking outside of the... outside of the little
outside
speaker.
of Greg's or something. yeah. And I think he got kicked off because I think people complained that all this bloke does every driving lesson is take them to. They know how to drive in for drive-through takeaways, but they didn't know how to park properly or do anything else because that's what he did. And he got sacked because
dirty
of it.
bastard.
But he's greedy. But I mean, he would this bloke would get up in the morning, right? He'll have for breakfast. He'll have like a baguette, like a massive baguette with ham and all that in it, and that's his breakfast. And then he'd have 11s, which would be like sandwich, 2 cakes, bag of crisps, and this bag of crisps would be this big, massive bag of crisps, you know, like Dorito type things. Then at lunchtime, we'd have like a roll, 2 sandwiches, a pie, and then have a bag of crisps. And when you open the crisps, you tear the crisp packet open, eat all the crisps, and then lick his finger and get all the little crumbs as well.
Oh God!
Then in the afternoon, he'd have a burger.
3 o'clockers.
Yeah, about 3 o'clock. And then on the way home from work, he'd stop at McDonald's, have a couple of Big Macs, and then get home and his missus cooked him dinner.
Jeez. Did he actually get out the car, or was he like ingrown into it?
Well, he could barely walk. He squeezed his ass to get in the car. You know when you see fat people get in a car, they get in sort of sideways. They sort of put their back in and they sort of slide themselves round like a weeble.
Yeah.
You know, it's very strange. And this guy, he could barely, if his shoelaces are undone, or kind of done, he couldn't do them up. He had to say to someone, he'd sit on the floor and say, "Can you do my shoelaces up?"
Yeah, well, you do see that quite a lot, don't you? You see real fat people with the shoes with the tongue. There's no laces in. It's just the tongues are hanging out because the feet are actually still too big to get into the shoe. So you've got what would be a normal size baseball boot on a normal man, you know, which is like sort of overflowing with foot fat.
Slip-ons. That's a good thing. Slip-on fatty shoes. That'd be good, wouldn't it? One they could slide into.
Yeah.
They could look like hot dogs to make them even more excited. Do you know what I mean? Like big hot dog, like slipper type thing. They put the feet in them. But yeah, this guy once he did attempt to actually do his shoelaces up once, and he bent over and split his trousers. So it's kind of he's a bit of an Oliver Hardy style buffoon, you know. Yeah. But it's like a caricature. He's so obsessed with food. That's all. The only conversation you can have with him is about food. He liked Harry Potter. So talk about Harry Potter, but he talk about food as well. Yeah, maybe there's food in that. Then they go to a feast when they go to that hall. I think maybe that's what he liked about it. But all he talks about is Harry Potter books all the time and food. Yeah. And that's another conversation you can have with him. Yeah,
we don't want to make anyone think we're fattest, though. We're not fattest because, as we all know, it's glandular. It's got nothing to do with the amount you eat. It's to do with that your metabolism and your glands and big bones. Yeah.
Yeah. How many big bone skeletons? You know, that's the thing you have to ask yourself.
Well, that's it. You know, I've never seen any sort of brontosaurus-sized humans in the, you know, when you sort of look in the medical journals, you don't see someone with massive brontosaurus-sized thighs, do you? Which is what you'd expect if you said it was big bones. You'd expect someone with a fuck-off skeleton, but you just don't see them. Maybe they hide them.
I do, yeah, I must do. But I think people will do have a place in the world. You know, like Oliver Hardy. If he wasn't fat, he wouldn't be as funny, would he? Do you know what I mean?
No, fat people are funny.
They are.
They bring a lot to the comedy world.
Oh, definitely. Bad manners. I mean, he lost a bit of weight and he wasn't quite the same as a skinny bloke with his tongue out.
Yeah.
You know, doing the can. But he's a big fatty, so it's good. You know, I think fat people are good. The world needs more fat people, I think.
Where would little and large be without large?
Be little or medium. That wouldn't be so good.
It wouldn't be very good at all, would it? So, you know, it is what it is. You know, there is a lot of large-boned people out there.
If you're fat, be proud of it. Be proud of it.
Yeah. I was going to say,
get a bowler hat.
Yeah. This show as well, it's late, isn't it? I mean, we didn't actually bring a show out in March, so we're actually into April. But we had, for saying we've got all this like fancy new gear, we've had major recording problems purely based around one section of the show, and that is the Fortean Oracle.
Yeah, it's something strange in the air, I reckon, because we had a lot of interference as well, didn't we? And some static and sounds like that, all sorts of weird things. Yeah. And of course, my broadband went down for a week, which I wasn't happy about. I had to kick off about it to get it fixed.
Yeah, so we recorded 40 minutes of the show, and it just disappeared into the void. And I think it's quite ironic that we were recording a show on interdimensional portals, because it would appear that between me, you, and Nathan, just us talking about it, opened one that started sucking in bits of the show that we've never been able to recover.
Yeah, so the alternate listeners in the alternate reality will be listening to the alternate show.
They will. They'll get the bit that we lost.
It was zapped up into this alternate dimension. There's people listening to, you know, on their own version, the alternate version of iTunes, or YouTube, and listen to it on there. Do you know what I mean? So it could be, you know, people like listeners, but doppelgangers, alternate versions of yourself. So
it is.
That's food for thought, isn't it?
It was. I mean, it was such a good part of the show that we recorded as well. When we recorded 35-40 minutes of interdimensional portals, and then the next day we went back and re-recorded it, but we spoke about stuff completely different. So what we've had to do is we've kept, obviously, the bit that was recorded, and then what we're going to do is, for the new Patreon backer material, we're actually going to record an extra section of the show. So you're going to get an extra paranormal section of the Mystic Menagerie podcast, which will be available on the website. And we've actually got a new Inner Sanctum section on the website, haven't we, Freddie?
Yes, we have. And all the subscribers, all the Patreon subscribers, and we do appreciate people that subscribe. And if you don't subscribe, please do, because you'll get extra goodies. You'll be sent a password. So you go onto the website, type the password in, and you'll be unlocking a vault of
Vault of Secrets.
Wonderful treasures.
Yeah, we've got two sections.
Chamber of Secrets.
Well, we've got two sections on there. So if you go to the mysticmenageriepodcast.com or just the mysticmenagerie.com, they're both websites direct to the same place. If you look on the navigation bar at the top, you'll see the Inner Sanctum. If you click on that, you'll find the entrance to the Vault of Secrets, which is where you'll find all of the free stuff and all the lectures and all the free books and everything we've released previously over the last 18 months in there. And then there's also another door which leads to the Arcane Chapters. Now, the Arcane Chapters is going to be the extra podcast content that the normal listeners don't get. So we're going to continue on the topic of interdimensional portals as the very first Arcane Chapter. So you're going to get an extra 40 minutes worth of podcasts there, which is we think is good value. And if you're not familiar with Patreon, we understand that Patreon to some people is one of these things that a lot of people still don't quite understand. It's a little bit like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. You're a bit apprehensive of typing your details in. We've also put a good old school way of backing the show, and that's by putting a PayPal subscribe button on there. So if you don't want to sign up to anything, you don't want to sign up to any kind of website, you can just click subscribe and send us it's $15 which is about £11 to become an Inner Sanctum member, and that regular payment of $15, which is taken monthly, will give you access to all the extra material on the site. And also I think it's probably a few £100 worth of material as well now in the Vault of Secrets, eh? Yeah,
there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot in there. I mean, it's stuff that normally people pay a lot of money for, and stuff that the thing is, not only would they pay a lot of money for if it was available separately. This is exclusive. The stuff is not just generally most of the stuff in there is not things you can get elsewhere. They're things that are exclusive to the actual vault.
Yeah.
So only the people that have access to that vault can access those things there. They're made exclusively for the vault. It's like a video that you did, isn't it, Dan, as well, which is exclusive, and there's lectures, there's recordings, there's all sorts of stuff in there.
Yeah, there's lots of, there's plenty of material in there to keep you occupied for quite a long time. And obviously the passwords do change every month, so if you do drop out, you're not going to get back in. Basically, that's the way we do it.
Yeah, and of course the vault is like, if you like the show and you like what we do on the show and you like what the show is about and you want more, you can get more. There is more available to you. There is,
and the website is looking really good now. Obviously Freddie is the blog master, so there's daily news going up on there, and we've actually got our first banners on the website now. So in conjunction with the Spectral Times, who we always support, Tom Burgess, Spectral Times of Great British Ghosts, he's got a banner on there. If you click on that, you can also get the latest free copy of probably the best paranormal publication. What's that? There's another thing coming through. Hold on a minute. Just let me turn off all of my external equipment. So, apologies to the listeners. That's it. It's all off. I think it's all off now. You've got your budgies, my phone, my email. I've also got a man outside mowing the lawn, and it's Easter holiday, so I've got two kids downstairs beating each other up with plastic swords and axes. So,
soundtrack of life, that is. You know what I mean?
It is. I mean, for saying the Mystic Menagerie Mansion is such a big building, it's quite noisy.
It is. It's echoey. So if someone's like right down the corridor, they're doing something, they're either playing with swords or a budgie to eating or someone doing a black magic ritual, it would echo down that corridor and you'll hear the ghostly echoes in the background of these strange sounds.
That's it.
But ambience, we'll call it ambience, I'll say.
Let's call it ambience.
Ambience to the show.
So I think what we'll do is now, as we'll sign off the editorial, as it is gone back to, obviously, its magazine-style format. We'll go for a quick cup of coffee, and we'll be back in a moment with Our Bizarre Life.
Now it's time to find out what's been going on in our bizarre lives.
Welcome back to the Mystic Menagerie podcast, episode 19. And now we're going to, our usual section, our regular section, Our Bizarre Lives, where myself and Dan talk about the sort of strange things that we get up to in our odd little lives and odd adventures we get up to. So, Dan, what have you been up to the last month, the last podcast? What's been going on in your world?
Well, it's been quite a fun-packed month, actually. Obviously, I've been updating my blog on danbaines.com, which is obviously my artist portfolio stroke blog.
Cool.
So I got my hands on. I was obviously coming towards the end of the tax year, so I always want to buy something rather than let the tax man have the money. I always think, well, what can I use in the studio? And I got my hands on a 3D scanner, which is an amazing piece of kit. There's a lot of cheap ones on the market. I didn't go for one of the cheap ones. I actually went for one of the medical grade ones, which doesn't use lasers to scan. It uses projects a grid of white light onto things, so you're able to scan parts of the human body, like the face, without obviously melting someone's eyeballs at the same time. So I think if anyone's been on Facebook or is a friend on Facebook, they may have seen that I've been scanning my face, printing it off about 10 centimetres in height, and then sticking it on old antique dolls. And I put some glass eyes in there as well, and it looks very, very creepy.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've seen them. They're brilliant. I mean, they are something you could have custom dolls like, couldn't you? You know, you could have all sorts of
well, this is it.
Collection of people.
Yeah, I mean, I've already been in contact with Rhys Shearsmith, who's been on the show before, obviously from Inside Number 9 and the League of Gentlemen, and we're going to scan Rhys, and we're going to make a little ventriloquist doll of himself. So hopefully we'll have a picture of Rhys with a little version of himself sat on his knee, obviously as a ventriloquist doll. So the technology is that good that I just can't get my head around. There's so many things that I want to scan. I can literally put anything on it and it will, you can reproduce it. So I got a couple of small micro machines AT-AT walkers from Star Wars, which they're quite sort of rare, and I don't want the kids to play with them, so I scanned them and printed them a couple off, and they've painted them, so they've got their own little AT-AT walkers now, so they don't have to use daddy's toys. They can paint their own. So
excellent.
So yeah, I've been printing, scanning. Obviously, for any magicians who still listen to the show, which I don't think there's many, I've also scanned all of the Dolly Darko parts. So Dolly Darko was a haunted doll effect that's been out for probably about 5 or 6 years. But the moulds have started to fall apart, and the original doll, which I found in an antique shop in Paris, is so smashed up and battered that it's on its last leg. So I scanned it and I've immortalised it digitally, so I've saved the doll forever. And the great thing is the right hand thigh was smashed, so I don't have a right hand thigh. So what I did, I just scanned the left one, and in the software I just mirrored it and saved it as another.
Right.
So I actually duplicated the parts without having to scan. They're amazing. Just so many different things I can do. And the other main thing I've been doing is, I think we touched on it briefly on the last show when I went to those mills.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
There's like a really funny windy sound in the background. Have you opened the cellar door?
Yeah. Cellar door's open. Yeah, there's a groaning zombie there. Back down there.
Okay. I was going to say, so I went to the mills in a place called Ambergate in Derbyshire, and these are it's an old wire factory where they made all of the suspension cables for Sydney Harbour Bridge, and also the telegraph cables that went underneath the channel for World War II.
Wow.
And they're all derelict now, so me and my son went down. We've both got drones, so we actually put the drones inside the buildings and flew them around inside. We did it about 6 o'clock in the morning. There was no one around, so it was remote urban exploration.
Brilliant. Well, those cables, were they called Pluto? They were underground cables for World War II.
I'm not sure what they're called,
because I think they're still there. Do you know where they are? In Isle of Wight, Shanklin Chine.
Oh yeah, that's it. They run down the beach from Shanklin Chine.
Shanklin Chine. Yeah, that's the one. Pluto. It's called. Is the name of it. I can't know what it stands for. So it's like an abbreviation, PLUTA. It stands for something.
Yes.
It's the actual cables that went under the ocean and sent fuel across, didn't it, to France and places.
That's it. Yeah. So Shanklin Chine. So they run from there, because I know Shanklin Chine as well used to be it was an area where the commandos used to do beach landings. They used to climb up the Chine to do practice sabotage runs and stuff, because it's particularly rocky and steep, isn't it? So
it's very steep, yeah.
If you're doing that in the middle of the night. We flew the drones around in there. And if you can actually go to danbaines.com and look for Drones in Haunted Zones, which is like a new series that I'm doing, where we're going to go to remote and dodgy places and film it with drones. Or you can find it on YouTube. Just type in drones in haunted zones and you'll come across it. And I've edited it together with a bit of music. It looks really cool. It's a bit urban because you've got all of the graffiti in there, but it's actually out in the middle of nowhere. And there's the house there called Oakhurst House, which I didn't film with the drone, but I took some photographs which are also on the website. Now the interesting thing with Oakhurst House is I put some pictures up on Facebook. Someone contacted me and it was just like they said, what is your experiences at Oakhurst Manor or Oakhurst House? And I said, well, I didn't really have any experiences because we didn't really go in, but there is a way into the basement that me and my son noticed, and someone sprayed a Pac-Man style ghost on the wall with an arrow pointing down, and if you follow the arrow down there's like a break in the ground and it leads into the basement of the house. But we didn't go in that day. We had too much equipment with us, so I didn't go in. But this chap who contacted me said, well, he went in there and he started firing his camera around. And there's a picture of a tunnel. And on this picture, you can actually see what looks like a man who's sort of half embedded in the floor. So you only see him from the waist up from the ground. And he's got a beret on, like a military style beret and a jacket. Which is quite unusual. So I'm tempted to go back in. I'm tempted to go back and have a look around, see if we can actually see anything in there. Obviously, we're not going to see ghosts and that, but it'd be nice to actually just go into the basement and have a look, because it looks like a network of tunnels. And I think the fact that if it is a ghost that's captured on this picture, I'll put it on the Mystic Menagerie Facebook page. If it is a ghost that's captured from the waist up, it's usually because there was previously something there before that's been filled in. So there may have been steps that go down into even deeper foundation, or it could have been a builder on the site who actually got killed when they were digging the foundation. So bit of a mystery.
Creepy. It is, It's a creepy place. I mean, there's so much. I mean, there's a lot to explore in the place. It's so weird that it's still kept there. There's many buildings these days. If there's an old building there, it's not doing anything. It's usually knocked down and affordable housing pops up, doesn't it? Yeah. Every bit of green land. I mean, it depends on the area. I suppose it's different around there. I mean, where I live, around in Berkshire, if there's any old building that's not being properly used, down it goes and up goes these brand new spanking flats. Yeah. So to have something like that still there is quite amazing in itself. Yeah. The fact that it still exists, There's nothing else around it, though. I mean, you couldn't really develop it, because there's not really much there anyway. It's kind of in between two towns, but I think it's actually still owned by a family called the Litchfield family, who own quite a lot of land up in Scotland as well, and supposedly that's pretty much in the same state as what the land in Derbyshire is. They've just let it go to ruin, really, which is such a shame, because you could do so much with it. Yeah, as I was saying, like years ago, there was loads of buildings like that around. Like derelict old buildings, mainly Victorian ones, very creepy on a hill. As a kid, I was fascinated by them, as you probably were as well, seeing it built. But now, particularly near where I live, they've all gone. It's all brand spanking new buildings. To find these places, it's like finding a gem, isn't it? Really, it is. Yeah. There's some very. I think Cane Hill, which is one place I went to, was old Asylum, which is up in near Croydon. That's just about standing, but there's not much really left. I think that's going to be developed as well. And an old hospital around here, which used to be an old Canadian Red Cross hospital, very creepy building, that's gone. And there's like flats on top of that. So most things are replaced. I think these buildings have to be cherished, really. They are the stuff of horror films, aren't they, really? Yeah, I mean, Burton-on-Trent is one hell of a place for derelict buildings, because it's obviously where they've got a strong history of making beer, and I think they've just been able to do it on a much smaller scale but still keep the output quite high of production. So they've got all these empty buildings like warehouses and factories and malting buildings. You just drive through Burton-on-Trent and you're surrounded by derelict buildings, which are just dying to be explored, but it's so built up around there that you really would have to go in at either a ridiculous time in the morning. Weird. Yeah, you'd still probably get caught, to be honest, but it's a fun thing to do at weekends. Keeps me occupied anyway. It's a brilliant hobby to do, and it's the thrill of getting inside a building like that and seeing it. You know what I mean? So there's no one else around; it's you there. It's that thrill of getting inside it. You know, I mean, when I was younger, my mate used to do it all the time. Find there's old buildings around and stuff like that. Like that hospital was a big one. We used to go in quite a lot. The one, it was the Canadian Red Cross Hospital in Taplow. That's no longer there.
No.
But I'll tell you a weird story about old buildings. It's kind of similar on a similar track. It's like I don't know if you heard of Osterley Park, which is just outside London, Middlesex, really.
No, I've never heard of that one. No.
It's a big part, and now it's still there, but it's got like there's a place called Sign House, which is where they had the corpse of Henry. You know, Henry VIII died.
Yeah.
They left his corpses there. Like, do you know what I mean? Before they buried him, it was on display.
Yeah.
At the time, he was seeping with sores and it kept farting and stuff like that. There's lots of stories about it. But Osterley Park was quite a big. You can go and visit it now, and it's used to be a butterfly house. I don't think it's still there, but it's massive grounds. And in the early 1900s, late Victorian times, my great-grandfather was the gamekeeper there. I used to look after it. And he worked for the Prince of Wales, who I think the royal family owned it at the time. Well, they lived in like a house nearby. There's like a big house nearby, quite an old house. And my great-grandfather had a lot of children. And my granddad was probably he wasn't the youngest. There was one younger brother than him, but there's like about 20 of them.
Right.
And they were on the front of the News of the World once. It's like this, one of the biggest families in the UK. And they had a daughter there, like a daughter who's quite young. And I think she died quite young in a fire or something like this.
Okay.
And the house itself down, right? But they rebuilt it. The house was rebuilt from the actual, you know, the I don't know, the basis of it, you know, the foundations of it. It's rebuilt exactly the same as it was. And what it is now, the place there's a garden centre there called, I think it's called White's Garden Centre. And they rebuilt the house exactly the same as it was. And that house now is like a place where the staff from the garden centre live, and it's like a storeroom and stuff like that there. Well, I think my mum went there and was talking to saying, "Oh, my dad." She said, "My dad used to live in this house years ago," and they said it's haunted. There's a ghost there, a young girl, which is there all the time, and they'd all seen it. So this ghost is a relative of mine, you know, albeit one who probably died in like 1920 or something like this. I'd never met. Yeah, but yeah, this little girl was seen there crying at night and walking around.
A relative in the spirit world.
Yeah. An actual ghost, yeah. So it's a ghost that can be clearly identified. Although I've not seen it myself, but these people there, they'd all seen this ghost. Yeah. You know, this Osterley Park, yeah, it's a garden centre just outside. I think it's White's Garden Centre, I think like that it's called, yeah. But this house, yeah.
Keep an eye open for it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there before. I looked at the house. You know what I mean? I saw it before it burnt down as well. We used to go there when we were kids. My granddad said I grew up there. But it's quite a big old house, you know, quite a biggish, very big house. Yeah. But now it's like like the offices, stroke living quarters of the people that work at this garden centre, the owners, I think. Yeah. But yeah. But
talking of ghosts, you put an interesting blog post on the website yesterday. I think it was to do with what Disney World in Paris. Someone had died in the haunted house there.
Yeah, how weird is that? You know what I mean? And that's a really strange. I mean, we said back on a show, which show? It was now quite back about haunted theme park.
Yeah, it was probably about show 8 or 9. We did a haunted theme park special, didn't we? Which covered Disney, but there was nothing at the time happened at Disneyland Paris. So
no, it's always the one in America. The Paris one is quite. You know, it's because it's fairly new, I suppose. It hasn't got much of a history to it. But this story is a very, very... I mean, anyone who looks at the blog or the Facebook page will see it on there. But yeah, he's a worker, wasn't he? He's a worker of Disney, who works at Disney, found dead in a haunted house. Yeah. And they reckon he was electrocuted, they reckon. Yeah,
because they can't really pin it down to a time he died. They just say it was between 2 times, and there's probably about a 12-hour gap. So he was obviously in there. And
9, wasn't it?
Yeah, they're locked up and, you know, they left him in there, which is quite unusual. Because we went on, I didn't know this, but I think it was a link on from the bottom of the blog post that you put about the Pirates of the Caribbean ride in Orlando, which is also haunted. Another worker died there. When you go on the ride, you go through a section of the town that's on fire. The pirates have set it, I think it's Tortuga. It's all on fire, and one of the workers in there fell to his death there, and supposedly he still haunts the ride. And I didn't know anything about this, but we went on the ride on Halloween itself last year, and we got sort of, I don't know, within about, you could actually see the end of the ride probably about 10 metres away, and the whole thing shut down. The whole ride just stopped and the lights went off, and that was it, and they couldn't get it going again. And we sat there for 30 minutes in the dark, you know, with 2 sort of toddlers on this ride that they couldn't get started. I mean, I was almost at the stage where I was actually going to get up and try and walk along the boats, because they were all, you know, like when you're on a log flume, they all bang into each other, don't they? They all start queuing
That's
up.
Right.
Yeah. But all of a sudden it started again, and as they left, they gave us free ride free ride vouchers or something. But yeah, supposedly it breaks down quite a lot when the ghost there gets a little bit miffed. And I suppose with it being Halloween as well, it's you couldn't pick a better time for a theme park ghost to show his face.
No, exactly. It's quite. I mean, that's the best thing, isn't it? See, at Halloween, it's a creepy time itself. Do you know what I mean? To see something like that.
Yeah.
Theme parks, like I say, they are quite creepy. I mean, I think that particularly like the abandoned ones, there's a creepy vibe about them because I think it's so fake. Like everything about a theme park is so fake, isn't it? It's like a fake world.
Yeah,
it's quite an unusual place. You know, that's why I think it has that creepiness to it. Particularly like the abandoned ones are really weird.
Yeah.
I remember one I saw really strange when I was a kid. I think we go to a lot of country pubs and drive out to them. Do you know what I mean? And as kids, sometimes we could go in the pubs and have a drink, have a Coke or whatever. Not a drink, couldn't have a whiskey on it. I was 6.
Yeah.
But nice though. Or we'd have to sit in the car. You know, one of them had it was like a fairground next to this pub, but it was an old one. It closed down obviously like in the 50s or something like that. And it's like a very basic one, like a very small, like a miniature fairground, but it's all rusted. And the weird thing was the swings kept moving on their own. There was no wind or breeze or nothing like that, but the swings just kept moving on their own. It was really, really odd. I remember sitting as a kid and thinking it's a bit scary. It made me think of that film, Carnival of Souls. It's very much like the one in that.
Yeah.
But this is just left there. It's left rotting, really. It's obviously vibrant at one time.
Yeah, there is one more abandoned theme park in the UK. As far as I know, is actually still there. I'm not sure. I don't think it's been knocked down or been redeveloped. And do you remember there was a theme park called Camelot, which,
yes.
Funnily enough, is in theme with the show because it's obviously all based around King Arthur. But Camelot theme park is still there, abandoned. Yes, there's a website. I saw a picture of it. There's like all the sort of soldiers, the sort of models and that just left around on the floor, like the torsos of them and stuff like that. Yeah. Very creepy looking, yeah. It's like a castle. It's all done up like a castle, and there's actually still a roller coaster in the middle of it all. It's very strange, isn't it? There's just something really sinister about the whole thing. Yeah. Very, very strange. Yeah, they are creepy places. So what else have you been up to over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks? Well, I've been quite busy. Seance-wise, I've been doing a few seances and stuff, but I'm looking at this project I want to do where there's this woman who is like a Victorian baby farmer called Amelia Dyer. Have you heard of her before? I have, yeah. Yeah, I mean, she's quite a sinister character. And like for listeners who don't know, what's a baby farming in the Victorian times? It's very shameful to have a baby out of wedlock. It's considered to be a real. People look down on you, so people would have these babies sort of farmed out to someone who'd look after them, and they'd sort of like they'd send money to them, they'd feed them and clothe them. And this lady, she used to put an Amelia Dyer advert in the paper saying, "I'll look after your babies, send me the baby and how much money it costs." And what she'd do when she'd get the baby, she'd kill them, she'd sort of poison them, put poison in their milk and stuff like this, and then she'd tie them up with gaffer tape and shove them in the river and kill them. But then she said the money coming in from these mothers who felt that their child was still being looked after. And she killed quite a lot of babies, and she got caught for it eventually. Her and her daughter was involved in it. And she was executed at Newgate Prison, which is like the big prison at the time, which is now the Old Bailey. Yeah. Well, there's 3 locations really around where she was from. Well, the first one, I think she's in Bristol initially, where she was when she was younger, and she started the baby farming, the murder stroke baby farming there. Then she moved to Reading, which is quite near me, Yep. And I found the location, I sourced the location, I found her house is still standing. Exactly as it was. Obviously people live there now. The interior is obviously different, but the exterior is pretty much the same. And also you've got in London, but the Old Bailey, there's a church there opposite there, which is opposite where the condemned cell was. So there's 3 locations. I've wanted to do this seance for a long time, and I've been looking at places. There's an abandoned shopping centre in Reading, which was a Victorian shopping centre at the time, and she used to shop there, and I may have access to it possibly. Ah, right. Is this the same place that does the zombie run? Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay. So it's possible. Yeah, I've been looking at that because I did some research years ago when I was researching her. I got quite into it, and I got some artifacts from the time. I got over a newspaper from the time. It's actually the Times newspaper from the day that she was convicted. Yeah, and it's got the trial in it. It's an original newspaper from the time. But also, when she died, there was an auction of all her personal effects. Because I read a book about it. It said that when she died, there was a local paper had an auction of all her personal effects in her house. So she got rid of all her stuff, And I put like an advert out about 5 years ago, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, for any people that family members may have had something or bought something, from this auction, still had it in their family, like an heirloom of some kind. Because it's something you would talk about if you had something from a famous murder case. Oh yeah, definitely. In a box, you'd say, this is Jack the Ripper's,
jockstrap or whatever, you know. And the weird thing is, stuff did turn up, you know. Because I know that the police museum in Berkshire has got some of the artifacts from her house, but I've got some bottles, Victorian bottles, and one of them could be where she kept her poison, so I could technically maybe have the murder weapon, you know, as such. And also baby clothes from there, and also a purse which is from there, a bad purse. And I did get these things looked at, and they are authentic Victorian items,
yeah.
You know, so you know, I don't see anybody would have a reason to lie, because they didn't sell me them for a great deal of money.
No.
People were quite happy to get shot of them. It's like their great grandparents had it, pass it down. It's a bit of a curious thing, but a lot of people didn't want it in their house. Some people have shrunken heads. Some people have things like that and say, "Oh, my great granddad, he brought it back from, you know, South America, so I don't really want it in the house." You know? So yeah, I've got these things here. So I was thinking of using this seance and using them as psychometry objects, the people that come to seance, to hold on to them.
Yeah, try and channel the spirit.
Channel it. Yeah, see what they pick up. So either they get her, or maybe victims or whatever, you know, either it'd be babies, but you might get the feeling of something strange. So I'm trying to get location and source, but I tried to, you know, the Old Bailey, it was where Newgate Prison was. That's where she was executed.
Right.
Now there's a video on YouTube where this bloke, there's a picture taken outside of there. This is quite a while ago, of people that worked there at the time, you know, and her ghost appeared.
Ooh.
Her ghost has been seen in the courtyard there. Now that courtyard part is still there. There's a wall of the Old Bailey, which is original Newgate wall, and it's next to that wall where the courtyard was, and that's where her ghost appeared. Now I thought I'd like to do a seance as close to her executed spot as we could do. Now opposite the Old Bailey, there's a church called St Sepulchre or something like it's called. This church is the original church that was there at the time, you know. So I suppose the person that owns it, they've got like a tunnel underneath, right, which led from the church to the condemned cell. Yeah. Now the end where the Old Bailey is bricked up. But what they'd do is, at the time, the priest would walk down that tunnel, get the person to be executed, take them from the condemned cell into the church, say their last rites to them, and allow them to pray or whatever, and then take them back and they'll be hung. And that's still there. That tunnel she would have walked down, as many would have walked down, is still there. And also, there was a bell they used to ring outside the condemned cell to get them to come out, to ring this big bell and say, you know, ready to come out for your last rites. That bell is there in a glass case.
Ah, okay.
And also, there's a door knocker there. And I don't know if it's the original, because you've heard the phrase "Black as Newgate's knocker," and there is a door knocker there. So I don't know if it's the actual door knocker from Newgate. Do you know what I mean? The actual one that's referred to in that phrase, you know. But that's there. And I spoke to them, but it's a weird hours this church open. It's really strange. Like they're in the afternoons, and then, but sometimes they're open some days, sometimes they're not. But I didn't think they let us in there for a seance, because if you say, you know, we're doing it, they think, oh, you're witchcraft or whatever. We don't want. We're Christian. We don't want you in it. So I tried to say that we were like a university project who were doing a history research. Do you know what I mean? But the times they wouldn't let us have it at a decent time. It was like,
you should have offered them some money. They usually turn down the fact that you're not religious in if you're going to just give them some cash.
We did, but they stuck their guns, because they were sort of like, I think they had people there rehearsing for like choirs, because I think the acoustics are good there or something like that. There, but they were very like, you can have it at 10 a.m. in the morning. We don't do seances at 10 a.m. in the morning. We do them in the evening, you know. But I'm still trying to sort of push to get the right locations. I thought the ideal was to do a ghost walk there. You know, walk around that church, walk down that alleyway where the condemned would have walked down. Do you know what I mean? See the bell that was rung there, and then have a seance there. You know. But it's quite. There's also a pub obviously called the Viaduct Tavern, which has got the cellar is actually one of the cells. I don't think it's a cell for the murderers and such like. I think people that were debtors.
Yeah, like a holding cell. Prison. Yeah,
they people that weren't that dangerous, but there's still a cell regardless of that. And I did try to. I mean, they do take people down there, or they have taken people down there, but they wouldn't let me hire it because of the health and safety regulations. Because the steps down there are very steep, and if someone fell down there, they could get sued. You know, obviously, even though you can advertise, you know, at your own risk you attend, you've got to have some degree of insurance for people in case somebody does something. You know, so yeah, it's finding that is quite difficult. But I think this shopping centre would be the best option. For me so far, and it's near her house, so we can try and get a walk to her house and to the river where she dumped the bodies.
You've got like almost like a ghost walk stroke. You got like a whole evening's worth of paranormal entertainment there, aren't you? If you can get the right places to agree to let you do something. Well,
it could be a tour. You know, you go to Bristol, you can go to Reading, you can go to London, and people could get like a bus. We could do it for a 3-day weekend. Do you know what I mean? People could go to each location. They could book up, and we could have a coach. You know what I mean? You go to Bristol to see her original house and where she was first, you know, got in trouble with the police. Then go to Reading where she was really naughty and got caught, and then go to where she's executed. So you could cover her whole life, location-wise and sales-wise, see what you pick up there.
Yeah.
So that is a project I'm working on still. You know, like I say, there's a lot of stumbling blocks I'm getting with the permission and the locations. Because when I get locations for things like this, I want to get it as close to the actual event or the actual location as possible. Like I say, you know, the Elephant Man, I was trying to get a location for that.
Actually, in the Sarea shop across the road from
in
the Royal London.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I did look at the Blind Beggar, you know, which is it's a nearby pub, and that's got a dual purpose because number one, you've got the elephant. It's near where the Elephant Man, you know, stalked the streets. But secondly, it's also where Ronnie Crowe shot George Cornell. Yeah. So there's sales-wise, you could have a dual Elephant Man stroke Crow Twin sales there. So it's getting the permission of these locations. Also, if they're noisy, you know, you need to have a room where you can have a quiet environment. So yeah, I'm trying to get these interesting seances on the go, like themed ones, historical events, and see where we go. I tell you once, I tried to get the Tower of London. I know it's a bit of an ambitious thing to do,
right?
But I wanted to hire the tower. You know, it's called the White Tower, where the princes were killed.
Yeah, the princes in the tower. Yeah. Yeah, that's
right. Yeah, because the skeletons were found there. You know, when they dug up the stairs, there were skeletons underneath the stairs. So they're saying that there was truth in the story. You know, what I thought would be great would be to have that tower, to have like a Shakespearean expert talking about the history, you know, Richard III and the story behind it. You know, and then going into the tower itself and doing a seance to the two princes, you know, or Richard III himself. But they want to spend like $100,000 to hire it.
Yeah.
But I think they're dubious because I think a while ago a TV show went in there. I'm not sure if it's Derek Okoro or something else, but it was
Sam. Sam, is that you, Sam?
Hey, Sam. Oh, Sam. It was something like that. But I think that the way it's done, it was almost done comically, and it looked stupid. And they said, "Oh, we're not going to allow any paranormal events here now because that one was ridiculous."
Yeah, the kind of shows like that have fucked it up for a lot of people who want to go and do a serious type of paranormal research or event at those places.
Well, yeah. The thing is, if you do a séance, you know, if it's on TV, they think, well, they can't have a TV program for an hour and nothing happens, and if nothing happens, make it happen. You know, whereas you know, in a séance context, you can have an evening where things happen, you get activity, or you can have an evening where little happens. It all depends, you know. Yeah. And it'd be much better, those programs, if they filmed them and occasionally they show them where nothing did happen. Do you know what I mean? Because that is the reality of doing paranormal events. You know, you're not always going to get things happen, and some places, you know, you think there's activity and there's not. You know. But the Tower of London would be a great one. But then if it's $100,000 to hire it, the tickets are going to be pretty pricey for that.
Yeah, I mean, you've probably got more chance of, if you, instead of saying you want to do a séance there, if you actually said you were part of a podcast and you had a team of people who wanted to spend the night there, who were going to do scientific type experiments, i.e. like recording and thermal imaging and all that type of malarkey, you may have a stronger chance of them saying yes, because if you do find anything and they want the exposure, the newspapers and that are going to run with a story like that, whereas they're not going to run with a story about you hosting a séance night and doing a Ouija board, are they? But if you come away and say, you know, we've got photographs or video footage of, for example, like the Grey Lady of this particular hall or something, that is potentially positive exposure for the actual location. So they might look at that a bit more favourably.
Possibly. I mean, the ones I've tried the angle with people. A lot of them, all they care about is the money, really, to be fair. I mean, I've tried to get the cave, you know, the High Wycombe Hellfire caves.
Yeah.
And they have been hired for paranormal events, but it's very expensive. It's very expensive. And also, Hampton Court, I think, is a bit cheaper than, obviously, in the Tower of London. But it's still quite, price range-wise, you know, for people have to these events, it'd have to be quite expensive. But then I suppose to spend a night in Hampton Court in the dark is an experience in itself, isn't it? Which not many people can have. So I'm looking at stuff like that. I'm looking at doing that.
Have you seen the British Museum? They do camping in there. You can spend the night in there.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, you can turn up with your sleeping bags and you actually sleep on the floor. It's called Night at the Museum, I think, isn't it? And you
that's right, yeah.
You all take sleeping bags and lie around on the floor. and sleep there.
Doing that.
Yeah.
And the London Zoo have these London Zoo night things where it's open at night. But I went to Whipsnade Zoo last weekend. And they have a thing there where it's like cabins. They're like, you know, it's sort of like log cabin type things. And they're in the grounds of the zoo, and you can stay there at night and sleep in these log cabins.
That's pretty cool.
And stay there overnight. And it's quite cool. I mean, it's weird as a zoo. I mean, as a zoo, it's ethical because there's a lot of space there for the animals. But the weirdest thing was, usually they're in cages, aren't they? You're walking along, and suddenly there was a troop of elephants right, just walking along, like you see a horse walking around. Right, there was like 6 of these elephants in a row, just coming right at me. I thought, what the fuck, you know? But they take them for a walk, because they're not vicious animals, elephants. They train you by accident, you've had it. But I don't think they're like to attack you. But they were letting those walking around. There's keepers with them, like, you know. They were just walking around, you know. But it'd be quite mad, yeah. But I mean, the zoo, it'd be interesting to stay there and like if someone got out. There was the chimps there were crazy. They were all adult ones, and they were fighting all the time. They were smacking each other and screaming, and they were like thugs. You know, like a gang of skids. Bang, yeah, screaming. One of them was sitting on his own, thinking, I ain't nothing to do with this. The rest of them were like beating each other up. It's just like violent, you know. They were real nasty bastards.
Adolescents.
Yeah, they were basically like thugs. If they got up out at night and you were in that cabin, you'd be shitting yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were big. They were big bastards, those ones.
That's excellent. So we've both had a fun-packed March. I'm losing track.
March, yeah.
The years are going so quick. I don't even know what bloody month it is. So
I know.
Yeah. So we both had a pretty fun-packed March there, by the sounds of it.
Quite hectic, yeah. So, you know, and also I've been composing bits of music as usual. You know, some of them I'm going to use for the show, hopefully. You know what I mean? So there's all different bits of stuff.
Yeah, well, I actually got a few inserted into this show, so people will hear some of the interludes and introductions to the various sections, all done by your fair hands.
Yeah, some weird stuff. So I'm working on lots of different sort of sounds and jingles and stuff like that. You know, as I say, if there's any people out there that are performers or want theme tunes written, you know, just drop us a line via the website, you know, and you know, you can commission up a like exclusive music for show, for your podcast or your show. So I do that as well. So I've had a few people I've been writing music for. So
brilliant,
that's
good
fun.
Well, I think what we'll do now, we'll take a quick break because I think after a few minutes we're going to interview Matt Fraser from American Horror Story.
Welcome back to the Mystic Menagerie podcast, and we've got another fantastic interview here with a very special guest. On the show today we have actor, and he does many other things as well as acting, but he's been in recently in American Horror Story, so you probably know him from that. But he's one of the most interesting people I've met in my travails around the cabaret scene. It's the wonderful Mr. Matt Fraser, calling all the way from New York via Skype. Hello, Matt.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Fantastic, mate. So how's life treating you over in the States?
All right. You know, it's a two-tiered experience for me over here. You know, on the one hand, there's a lot of sideshow, a lot of nightclub work. People, you know, I get on with people accept me, have a good time. But then on the other hand, whereas I used to get, you know, I mean, I've just been on American Horror Story Freak Show, which is like one of the biggest cable shows here. And, you know, every time I walk down the street, kids recognise me and what have you. But I just spent a month trying to get, like, more work on telly in America, in a fucking town where having one tooth out of place is considered a problem. So obviously they're finding it a little difficult to imagine me being the neighbour or something. So I always try to focus on the positive and the good stuff, and there's loads of stuff to do, and it's very much the land of opportunity for me. But I don't think my Oscar speech is imminent, shall we say. But then probably neither is any of us, right, lads? So, you know.
Exactly, yeah. But that's a shame. I mean, the thing is like, you know, you're someone who's quite outspoken about things. And the thing is what I feel with meeting yourself is your attitude as well as a person. If anybody's got any misconceptions about, you know, people that are disabled that are working as actors, you smash those misconceptions completely. And that's something that you do quite strongly, isn't it, Matt?
It's something I believe in, yeah, because I think the tropes and cliches around disability are inaccurate. It's like if you believed everything about black people that people told you in the late 50s, you'd have a pretty bad idea of what the black experience is. Now we know a lot better because black people were allowed to tell us, actually, it's like this. So, yeah, I like to do a bit of that. I'm not into inspiration porn. I don't want to get a fucking award for being able to put my socks on and remembering my name, etc. And I do want to be taken to task if I'm an arsehole. But I don't think it's inherently funny to note, you know, I mean, yeah, I make T-Rex gags like the next person. But what I'm saying, you know, there's a right side and a wrong side. And as long as it's meant with love, and then you can be as offensive as you want, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And for the listeners who don't know, you were born a thalidomide, wasn't you?
Yeah.
And that's...
I've got
tell us a bit
funny
about
little arms, listeners. Yeah, I've got funny little arms. I don't have bulky shoulders. I end at the collarbone, and then I have a kind of truncated plate bone, like a seal flipper, and then an L shape, like a foot coming off a leg, hand, with 4 fingers and no thumbs. Now, having short arms, because my arms are 10 and 11 inches long respectively, like your penis, sir, and having that, most people think, oh my God, that must really be a bummer, and they try and imagine, and whatever, it probably changes my day a bit, but the more profound is the fact that I don't have thumbs, because they're the opposable digit. The miracle of human evolution means you can pick up your pint and other things that you hold with one hand, but I have to use 2 hands for that. So that's the big difference. Thalidomide was a drug that was taken in the 60s for women. It was the first ever non-barbiturate painkiller, a wonder drug. You couldn't kill yourself no matter how many you took. And it was a painkiller and a cure for morning sickness. And my mum took it when she was on tour. My mum's an actress. Took it 3 times in 1 week, on around week 31, I think, of the pregnancy, causing the nerve buds in my upper limbs to not develop, and hence my limbs not to develop. Big scandal at the time. The drug company lied about it, yada, yada, yada. And as they say, or blah, 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 as they say in Britain. Sorry, I've started saying American phrases. I do apologize.
My bad.
Terribly sorry, what? So phocomelia, the seal-like limbs condition, has always happened throughout history. It's just that when thalidomide arrived on the scene, this drug for pregnant women that hadn't been tested properly, there was a sudden rash of phocomeals, and I'm one of them. I'm happy to be what I am. I don't wish I had long arms. Sometimes I think an upgrade of a thumb might be useful, but most of the time I'm not bothered. I do think it's a terrible crime that the drug company did, and I would like to see those guys go to prison. They probably never will, because that's how the world goes. But we'd like to screw them for that obscene amount of profit they took at the cost of mutating all those people. Most of us flids, as I like to call myself. I know it used to be a derogatory term, like spaz, or the N-word, but, a word is only a harmful word if it's only used as harmful. I use it to celebrate my beautiful freakishness and fuck anyone who disagrees.
Fantastic. And that's what it's about, is you've turned everything around and made who you are your strength. Do you know what I mean? You
have to, though, Freddie. You have to, don't you? Well, I mean, of course. Otherwise I'd be in a bedroom somewhere, wailing,
Yeah. Exactly. And the thing is, when I met you years ago at Leicester Square, we were doing a show. It's a thing called Sideshow, wasn't it? I don't even remember that show. Yeah. With an axe, And I suppose I'm considered a freak as well. The sort of show that I was doing,
Yes.
And yourself, you were on there doing a really amazing act. It was like you'd got the original CeeLo the Seal Boy act, from the old. Was it 40s? Was it 40s or maybe earlier? Wasn't it?
CeeLo worked from 1929. He worked from the 30s right through to 1974. Or thereabouts. And I asked Bobby Reynolds, who is one of his talkers. A talker or a barker is the guy that stands outside and goes, "You're going to see the seal boy inside," etc., etc. And there was a guy called Bobby Reynolds, and then what they call the king of the sideshows, Ward Hall. And I interviewed both these old fellas, and they told me about his act, and I put it together. A little bit of artistic license, but it's something I still love to do because it's a part of history. And as you very well know, Freddie, you do an act, you go around the country, you get booked again, and they're like, "Oh, haven't you got another act?" You've got to mix it up a bit. And I like to do that because it's historical and different and weird for people, I think, to see an actual deformed person doing an actual act that a deformed person would have done in the olden days. I think that's what makes it powerful, in the way that if you saw a black guy, doing like a slave routine, it would be a little bit more powerful than if it was a white guy. I don't know, something like that.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, it was quite a mesmerising act, and the fact is that the thing is with the freak show is a big part of history, and most people sort of try and bury that and say, "Oh, let's try to." And these people were out earning money. Do you know what I mean? And doing well. A lot of them do well for themselves. Do you know what I mean? Using what they had in life to make, and you embrace the history.
Yeah, I do. And what's funny, Freddie? This is an old argument that I'm used to having pitched at me. I've got all the facts and figures about how, in 1930, where else could you as a disabled person, get a job where you were living a rock and roll lifestyle, treated as an equal with the people on the road, and fiscally independent. like no other disabled people had that except the kids of millionaires, you know, and there are very few. And what's ironic, I think, is that people, you know, oh, it was banned, and then people might go, oh, sure, maybe in those days it was needed, but nowadays people have got opportunities. Have they? Have they really? Because I tell you what, in the last 10 to 15 years in the sideshows in America, it's full of people like me. Little flipper kids, you know, Jason Black Scorpion, Jason the Illustrated Penguin, people with deformities coming in and doing human blockhead and walking on glass and, you know, traditional sideshow acts, mixing up their deformity and an old sideshow skill in order to make the living that they just can't get from the government or today's society. So I think that proves that it's a two-tiered thing. All entertainment is exploitation to an extent. And yeah, if people are coming in to look at my flippers, you know, the premise of the invitation could be considered exploitation. But currently in Coney Island sideshow, it says on the inside list for performers, you are here to do a traditional 10-in-1 sideshow. If you can serve any other agenda in your performance, you go right ahead. And I tell people about the evils of thalidomide and, you know, modern pharmaceutical shit, and you know, I run the gambit, and I don't think it's just people coming to look at my flippers. I think people get entertained and educated, and in this day and age, and in the olden days, that's still a really, you know, good thing. It's easy for a chin-stroking Guardian reader, public school educated, heterosexual, blah, all the other things, person to sit there and pontificate about us outsiders. You live our life for a year, and then you pontificate. It's very different.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine because a friend of mine is a dwarf, and he worked in a lot of films and stuff like this. He did things like Labyrinth and that kind of stuff. And obviously, every year, one of his biggest bread and butter was doing pantomimes. And obviously, there's only one pantomime to really be in. And he made a lot of money. I mean, he'd make enough money in those sort of few months he'd do panto to last the rest of the year. So he'd only work half a year, really. But these do-gooders were saying, oh, they shouldn't have dwarves in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It should be children playing it. So he was out of work because they can't children.
I know, and that's awful. And the clue is in the title, I think, with that one, isn't it? You know,
exactly.
Snow White and seven fucking dwarves, not seven children.
Exploiting children. So you know,
it's like a feminist argument of striptease being a feminist act because it can pay for somebody to look after, you know, dependents and or get themselves through college or whatever, you know, the thing may be, financial independence need may be. And it facilitates that. And other people, you know, with a different kind of level of feminism might say, yes, but long term, it still serves the agenda of women being only valued through the objectification of their body or whatever. And you can angle that out, freaks, and then you can go back and you know, the bottom line is, I will never criticise a disabled person, a dwarf, or whatever, you know, whatever kind of disability, making money and entertainment off the back of advertising their difference. I have a slight issue with dwarf throwing because I think that sometimes can be actually physically damaging to the person doing it. And I would question sometimes the need to do that. But any kind of, you know, playing the common dwarf, I get Peter Dinklage's annoyance at that. And you know, but the fact of the matter is, Peter, not everybody is earning $3 million per episode or whatever it is that you get. And I'm glad you get it, and I support you. Some people need to go and work at the circus or the sideshow or Snow White. And you know, my friend Ben Gambrill, he's a dwarf performer. We started working at the box together. You know, I was doing shock flipper, he was doing shock dwarf. We met, we were like, I do other things too. Yeah, me too. He ended up being in the panto last year at Wimbledon. He ended up getting the part of like the town crier or like the you know, like the mayor, one of those sort of B characters in a panto as a dwarf. Which I thought was really cool because they were like, oh, we're not doing Snow White this year, we've got nothing for you. And he's like, what do you mean you got nothing for me? Come on, I dwarfed it for you last year. This year. And they did. So, you know, what I'm saying, to conclude on this subject, each case should be taken on an individual basis, and I'm not going to be the one to tell a disabled person they can't earn money.
Definitely, exactly. And I feel that, you know, it's like, you know, I like to see yourself as an next James Bond. I don't feel that's... do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
I've got the acting skills.
I've got the acting skills. You know, if I adapted the Porsche, I'm sure I'd be all right with that. I could take the lady's zip down with my toes. Yeah, quite alternative Bond, really. But they can listen. If you think they've got a problem with the black Bond, what do you think they're going to do?
Well, that was it. There was a rumour that it was going to be Idris Elba as the next James Bond, and I think that was soon quashed. So
it's so funny the way people are up in arms about a fictional character. That would never happen. Whatever, I'm not going to comment. All I will say is this. I would love to. I think that I would prefer it to be the Bond villain, but I'll take any work in the next Bond. Thank you very much, Mr. Broccoli, or whoever it is now.
Yeah.
It's Barbara Broccoli now. So if she's listened to the show, which she probably doesn't, but if someone who knows her listens to the show, then we want to see Matt Fraser in the next Bond film, or I might start an internet campaign, actually. We want you to be in the Bond film. Either Bond or a villain.
Yeah, my wife, Julie, thinks exactly the same thing. She thinks I should be a Bond villain. You know, maybe one day. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I'm available.
I'll try, Matt. I'll do my best. And the thing is, you're good at martial arts. That's the next extra bonus, I think, because a lot of people don't know that you did a film, didn't you? Was it called Kung Fu Flid, wasn't it?
That was it. Well, it was called Kung Fu Flid while we were making it. It was made by a consortium of businessmen. I've been told to say is the collective expression. From Essex, shall we say? No, lovely guy, Terry Stone. He has a fantastic film production company. They knock out London gangster films. They did St. George's Day, Rise of the Foot Soldier, Nines, Rolling Up the Nines, those films. And they did a departure and did Kung Fu Flid, which was a bad taste. If you could look at it as a comedy or look at it as a straight drama, retribution thing. When we got distribution for an existing video company. The bloke was like, I am not having a film called Kung Fu Flid on my... So we had to rename it to Unarmed But Dangerous, which, is slightly more tasteful, I suppose. Yeah, I was disappointed. Terry said we were going to do a trilogy. Flippers of Steel was going to be like the follow-up. But
brilliant.
We had to sell 10,000 DVDs of each one, and we only sold 3,500 of the first one. Last time I spoke to him about it, he went, "No, mate, dead in the water." So there we go.
Oh, that's a shame. That is a shame. But then, of course, you went to American Horror Story. How did that come about?
It's funny that I wanted to briefly talk about that, because the artist, do you go for commercial success or do you go for the art you think you should do? The road to hell, I would suggest, is paved by chasing commercial success as a thing in itself. If you get it by doing the thing you love, it's double bubble. It's win-win. And I was offered a commercial job. The money wasn't that good, but it would have been like on Broadway. I would have been in the chorus, big tour, lots of articles. I turned it down because I was trying to develop an adult version of Beauty and the Beast with my wife, because we wanted to do a show together. We ended up doing that. We smashed it at the Young Vic. We smashed it in New York. Got a review by a bloke called Ben Brantley, who works for the New York Times, who's all-powerful theatre reviewer here.
Yeah.
Total fluke that we got it, I think. But anyway, he loved it. And just by chance, and this is the weirdness of life, just by chance, a friend of a producer in LA was in town in New York looking for a play, read the review, went, "Oh, I'll go to that." Saw me and went, "Oh, my friend's casting freaky people like that right now." Gave her a call the next day, and 24 hours later, I got offered an audition for American Horror Story. That is so weird. I was drumming at the time in Germany, and I taped my audition on photo booth and emailed it to them. Because I didn't have the good technology to do like a posh video on Vimeo for them. And before I'd left Germany, they offered me the part. I was dumbfounded. I was in a small, weird German hotel, and God knows some of those are weird, having a beer and worried that the lady was going to wake up and come downstairs and tell us all off, that kind of hotel. And I got the call and sort of thought, fucking hell, I'm drumming. I'm like the bloke at the back, the least important person, drumming in this gig in Berlin, and now I've got to fucking New Orleans for 6 months and being like this top drummer. It was really weird, Freddie. Really, really weird. Good weird, but weird, And
you shone in that show as well. You was quite a main character, weren't you, as well?
Ended up being one. You never know what's going to happen. When you arrive, they've written the first 4 episodes, and then they let the first episode roll out and act, and they watch you all like the hawks. You don't know this at the time. And then they decide whose part to make bigger and whose part to keep the same. And I was very lucky. My first scene was with Jessica Lange. My line was, "You're on in 5, love." But I think, presumably, they assumed that this flipper guy, whose credentials were he worked in Sideshow, they didn't know that I was an actor or could act. They were like, "Fucking hell, he can act." This is my analysis. I wasn't there when they said that. Gee whiz, he can act. And my part got a little bit bigger. And then I ended up being Jessica Lange's lover, which was a surprise. When I read that episode, I did, well, those of us with flippers don't punch the air, we kick the air. I kicked the air.
Well, she liked to work with Jessica Lange. I mean, she's an amazing actress, isn't she?
She is. She's has a huge amount of aura around her because she's a huge film star. So I was, when I say nervous, not like shaky voice nervous, I was just wanted to do a good job. I wanted her approval. And we got into bed and, I didn't really know how to position myself. I wanted to be polite. I didn't say, caught the free shot, love, open your legs. I just waited and she sort of pulled me in and I let her sort of call the scene and the director said what he wanted and we did it. And she brought my face in, pulled my head towards her, so our faces were brushing lips and noses as we were talking. Very intimate, she made it. And I just followed her lead. And she suggested that we take it again from another angle to make sure it had good coverage, as they call it. And clearly seemed to value that scene quite a lot. And, I did it and I was so bloody hell, I ain't never done a bed scene with a film star before. And then they were all like, wow, never filmed a bed scene with a disabled person before. So everyone was all a bit like, ooh, afterwards. I was done for the day, went home and had and then you can fill in the last word. It could be biff, it could be a bourbon.
That could be a competition. What was that missing word?
Could have been biffed. I'm not saying. This way, there was a little store down the road that sold Girl Scout cookies. That's code, friends. That's code.
Code. Okay. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a great cast. I mean, they got a lot of disabled actors, unusual people in the show. Was there some camaraderie there? Did it feel like that you were together in this when you were filming it?
Yeah. Well, there's always a bit of camaraderie when you've got a weirdness. Like, say you've got deformity in common. 5 deformed people, 150 not deformed people. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of deformity camaraderie. And there was camaraderie, but I have to say, the camaraderie. We were also like. We would get 5 to 7 lines or something, The camaraderie was really between the carnies, because there were extras who were featured extras, and they were playing the carnies. And we were always around in scenes with them. And so we did a lot of hanging around would be with them. So the camaraderie was very much sort of with the B level of actors, as well as there being an inter-camaraderie of sort of disabled people. But we all pitched in together. It was nice to see, really. And further to that, every morning I'd be getting my tattoos, which were all fake, obviously, from the chin to the navel, done. Take 2.5 hours every day. Naomi Grossman, the actress playing Pepper the Pinhead, would be getting her pinhead prosthetics and makeup onto my right. And Evan Peters, the unusually able-bodied, hunky actor, was having his ectrodapally lobster claws put on. And there was a camaraderie there, too. I mean, sometimes I privately thought, you know what you're fucking talking about, mate. I'm the fucking deformed freak. Yeah. But I got over myself. It's a television programme, a horror television programme made by Ryan Murphy. Why would I expect reality? I had to get over myself a little bit in that first week and realise that this was a horror depiction of what it was. And the other thing was that it's a repertory company. So all those actors that weren't disabled, playing disabled people, normally, I might have a bit of an issue about that. But, they played all the parts in every series. So, of course, it was freak shows. Some of them are going to be playing freaks. But, yeah, there was a little bit of camaraderie. I'll tell you this. Rose, who played Legless Susie, very sadly died on December the 12th. And I, having buddied up with her son, who was 15-year-old at the time, I took him to Krav Maga, Israeli self-defense martial arts lessons for 3 months while we were filming. Yeah. And so I went and spent some time with the family when she passed. And I suppose that was the camaraderie at play, yeah. Sorry, if you can hear my stomach rumbling, it's because I haven't eaten yet today.
Oh, it's a different time here. It's in the afternoon here, and me and Dan have probably got full bellies, you know what I mean? So you're
ready for cake now. Time. You still eat country slices? Do you remember country slice?
I do, yeah.
Were they the Mr. Kiplings?
Yeah.
We still get those. Yeah.
Oh, God. I lust after those. I can get beans and Marmite and salad cream because there's a little weird English shop here in New York. But, I can't. Do you know what the weird thing is? They call muffins that we call Canadian muffins, they call them English muffins. I'm like, really? We don't have muffins in England. We have toast.
Yeah, we do.
Tea cakes and scones.
Well, We'll have to send you a food parcel over. We'll have to send you a big bundle of British goodies to keep you ticking over.
Yeah, no lard though. I don't eat meat. Just very un-British.
I mean, is that a fashion lard now? I think is. What would you miss most though, being in the US about the UK? What do you miss? What things you miss?
It's what they say. It's that sharp, sarcastic, dark sense of humour that we have. You know, I host a fair bit of cabaret here, and I try some of my British inverted commas humour, and they just say it's mean. Oh, we don't like that. It's mean. And I think no, in Britain they would think this is funny. So I miss that edgy, dark, vicious humour that we have. Not much of the food, to be honest, because, you know, the thing about New York is you get anything you want to eat any time. I'm not saying that's the good thing, it's just there. I miss cafes. You know, we have diners here. I miss cafes. I miss British TV. I miss, the normal stuff. I miss having a read on a Sunday.
The shit weather.
The shit, that I do not miss. God, I miss that.
I actually love the shit weather. Everyone always says, what do you miss most about the UK when you go away? And I'm like, I miss the bleakness and the rain.
The dark still, the satanic mill skies, that 45-degree rain.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, there are lots of things that I miss about Britain, but mostly it's the understanding, the inherent understood culture that we all share that I find I suddenly don't share over here sometimes. I've learned not to do those things, but I miss them.
Yeah, I think what you were saying at the beginning of the interview about your sort of acceptance over there and how you feel like you don't fit in, I think that's probably just quite a big reflection on American culture, isn't it? If your face doesn't fit, or if you're not perfect in every single way, you're almost automatically a misfit. I mean, the amount of American sort of children you see come over on exchange, and they've all got perfect teeth, perfect skin. It's like they've been engineered to look that way just so they can be accepted into society over there.
Yeah, and I went to LA after American Horror Story, and I had to go to a couple of parties, and we've heard about LA parties, right?
Yeah,
the most false place on earth, and I could literally bifurcate, cut in half the people who had seen the program and the ones who hadn't, because in LA they will suck the cock of anything that's been on television. Not literally, although probably if you explored that avenue, I'd
give that a try.
But what I mean is, if they think you've been on TV, the plastic smile immediately, like the open body language, the sparkly eyes of delight, all of that, right? And that's an immediate default thing. But if they don't know, and all they see is a deformed guy inexplicably at their Hollywood party that they don't understand, there's this bemused, shocked, revolted frown that's also accompanied by a plastic smile, because they think they're covering. So the bottom half of their face is doing the cover work, while the top half of their face is revealing the truth. And it's the weirdest look. I should do both of the two different looks. But I could tell immediately who'd seen it and who hadn't. I'm fucking 54. I don't give a fuck if someone's revolted about my body. It just means it's the way they were brought up was a bit narrow, so it doesn't bother me emotionally. It just made me laugh a lot, because I thought, you poor fuckers, you're so imprisoned by this narrow definition of life. I feel for you, man. I feel for you bad,
Exactly, and that's the thing. Is like I say, you're really embracing everything. It's like you've probably done more than most people I know. You play drums, you do karate and stuff like that.
Secret, that's what they call it.
Yeah, you're a quadruple threat, as they say in show business. So playing drums. How long have you been playing drums for? Then do you play drums regularly in the band now, or do you have a band at all?
Well, I have a band called The Spasms, SPAZMS. We're on Facebook. We've got a single, Radioactive Japanese Jellyfish, another one called Vodka Pickles. And we've got a giant on bass who plays double bass through a distortion pedal. And then we've got he's got osteodegenerasis. I fucking don't know how to say it, brittle bones. And he's fucking Jimi Hendrix in a wheelchair. He's a nutter with his monstrous guitar. And so we formed a band. And I've been in many bands over the years. And I still drum. I've got a beautiful 1968 Sling-a-Lang 4-piece jazz kit that I play in rock style. Anybody that interested. Everyone else has gone to sleep. He's a drummer listening. Everyone wake up again. I love music. Always will be a drummer. I don't get the opportunity to play, but funnily enough, I just booked in a rehearsal studio for next week because there's a woman who was on The Voice US who hosts a club I perform at, black woman with a fantastic rock voice, and she wants to do Dazed and Confused, the Led Zeppelin song, with the Spasms, just for a day for fun. So that's what we're doing. Yeah, so I still do. It's more of a hobby now for me, the band stuff, you know.
Yeah, and we'll people that over in the US probably don't realise is you actually was in the opening ceremony in the 2012 Olympics. You played drums, didn't you?
I did play drums with the closing ceremony. I mimed drums in the opening ceremony with Grey Eye Theatre Company, the all-disabled theatre company, who were doing the Ian Jury musical that I drummed on, which is what I was doing in Berlin, that reference. And then I got a call 2 days later. I'm now going to recreate the call for you on the voicemail. Hello, Matt Fraser. This is Chris from the band Coldplay. Saw you drumming, really liked it, and wondered if you're free Tuesday, Thursday, and next Sunday. If you are, we'd like you to come and do a song with us. So get back to me. My number's, which I'm not going to do that bit, but he's going to get a lot of hate calls. Thanks very much. And amazingly, I was free the Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. Tuesday, I flew to Dusseldorf with them in a private jet to watch how they roll. And talked to Chris Martin a lot on the plane. Thursday, I went to a rehearsal in a car park in Croydon or somewhere. And then on the Sunday, I was there. I just had to literally, I'm glad I'm an old fella, because if I'd been young, my nose would have got the better of me. But I just pretended to ignore it. You know, like when you're really, really fucking wasted, but you have to pretend to be straight.
Yeah.
Just go to yourself, fuck it, I'm straight. No one will know. And somehow, sometimes you get away with it. Fuck it, I'm not nervous. This is normal for me. I can do this. And then I found myself like looking up, thinking, "Wow, there's 75,000 people watching what we're doing, and I'm on stage play. This is weird." It was really fun, though. It was really fun, and I have to say, they get a lot of flack. I will let you into a moment. I had a moment of doubt cross my face. You know, half hour before we were being ferried onto the stage. And Chris Martin saw me. He said, Matt, you all right? Let's have a word. Took me out onto the veranda. One might have a fag break. And he said, look, mate, it's just a gig. You've done 1,000 of them, yeah? I was like, yeah. So, all right then, we're good. And he went back in. And I thought, that was nice of him. He didn't have to do that, you know. Yeah. And I have to say, they're awfully nice people. You know, they're the nice, polite, sensitive, middle-class boys that they say they are. And I had a fucking brilliant time. I will say this, though. They did it for £1. Ooh, I'm spilling the beans here. They did it for a symbolic £1. Probably cost them 100 grand to do because of the way they roll. And I did happen to hear a rumour that Jay-Z, who was also on that gig, wasn't quite as generous. Let's just say that. So before you knock Coldplay for being millionaire recluses around. Anyway.
So we can say now officially, despite their music, they're lovely people.
They are lovely people. And, you know, I got to play on a good rock song, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
And the first thing he said to me, because it was the Paralympics, and there was a bit of an issue, and I did have to clear that. Because I'd been told by all my militant disabled friends who I'd confided I was doing, they were like, oh, God, don't let them play Fix You. And I said, I was about to open my mouth, and he went, before you ask, no, we're not playing Fix You. And I thought, he gets it, I'll shut up. So that was all right.
So they're on the ball there. But that must have been an amazing experience. And you also do a podcast on the BBC called Ouch, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. They've just had their 10th anniversary. We started off. No one at the BBC. They're like polite about disability. So the blind director producer there said, "Look, can we do a podcast? Don't worry about it. It'll just be on the BBC website." And they were like, "Yeah, go ahead." And they obviously clearly never listened to it for like 2 years. Well, we became more and more offensive, as disabled people tend to do when they get together. Doing a quiz called Vegetable, Vegetable or Vegetable, etc. And then the BBC, like, it got popular, and then they listened, and they were like, oh my God, it's really offensive. You can't say that, you can't say that. We battled. Eventually, we couldn't say that, so I left. But yeah, we just recorded, me and Liz Carr, who's the wheelchair-using lady in Silent Witness.
That's it.
But believe me, she's not like Carissa in real life, I can tell you. You think I'm scared? Whoa, until you talk to her. So we just recorded, like 2 hours ago, funnily enough, our little segment for the 10th anniversary. And it's very newsy, fun, kind of like a magazine program about disability, you know.
Brilliant.
That's my wife. It's all right. It's not the BBC. It's the Cool podcast, babe. Here comes my lovely wife, the glamorous Julie Atlas News, coming in through the door.
Hi.
Hello, Julie.
She can't hear you because I'm on headphones.
Cool.
Tell her to say hello.
Yeah.
I say hello. We'll be about another 10 minutes, okay?
All right, I'm going to have a shower.
All right, babe.
I like the way you said the Cool podcast, not the BBC. That's we can put that as one of our testimonial things on the website. Not like the BBC. We're cool.
It's me. I'll give you some nice quotes, but I don't want to be comparatively slagging him off in your face because you know the likelihood is it's unlikely that I'll get any television work with the BBC, but it's even less likely I'll get it with you.
You don't want to shit on your own doorstep, basically.
No. Although once, remember, I used to go out with a girl who lived on the boats off Chelsea, that S-Bend on King's Road in London, which is right near the Conservative Party headquarters. And back in those days, I was an angry punk with a kilt and no knickers on. And I was like, I'm going to do a shit outside the Conservative Party. Scoped the place, you know, went there. You can just squat down in a kilt. No one knows what you're doing. Have a shit and then just walk away. Your bottom might be a bit messed afterwards if you don't wipe, but you know, don't eat the wrong food. You can probably do it. Never did it. Sorry,
I'm going to bear that in mind when I next go on a stag do. I'm going to wear a kilt because it could save me a lot of embarrassment.
You have to be careful in that area though, because Adamant is around there. You don't want to do it on his doorstep because that wouldn't be on. That'd be very upsetting, wouldn't it?
Well, the last thing I'd want to do is shit on his doorstep.
Exactly.
A lot of enjoyment in my early life.
Exactly, and he still continues to perform today, doesn't he, old Adam? You know, he's still up there. You know,
despite his off and on mental illness, which I understand that he's living with now. You know, I remember my girlfriend looking at the album cover of Kings of the Wild Frontier and saying, "That makes me wet," and I was like, "Okay, now a lucky bastard."
And he's still cool today. He's still the old pirate look, and he's still rocking the old pirate look very much.
Yeah, a bit of a belly, but you know, probably had to get like a waist dart in those leather pants, but absolutely leather trousers. So, yeah, I love Adamant. I love pre-Marco, post-Marco Adamant.
Yeah.
Personally, Dirt Wears White Socks is my favourite album, but then I'm an old fucker.
That's a brilliant album. He toured that last year, didn't he? Did the whole album live. So that would have been an experience.
Really?
Yeah, you should have come to the UK just for that. And he's doing Kings of the Frontier this year, playing the whole album start to finish.
There's what I miss about stuff in Britain. I didn't even know that was happening. And I would have.
There you go. So Matt, what have you got coming next? Everyone knows you, or should know you for American Horror Story because you were fucking brilliant in that. You know, a really, really good class performance. What have you got lined up next? What are you doing at the moment, mate?
Well, I'm auditioning for stuff. You know, I've got a maybe part in a low-budget horror film, but it keeps getting pushed back month by month. We're now looking at month 10, so not looking good there. I'm writing stuff, and because you can do web dramas now, you know, you can record it on a phone, edit it on iMovie, and bang it up on the web for very little cost now. So I'm doing a couple of those with Julie. I write with Julie a lot, and we're hoping to come to Britain. We're hoping we've got some exciting news about a new production of a famous piece that we're reimagining for the British stage. That'll be next. I can't say what it is because we haven't signed on the contract yet. I consider it a jinx if you talk about it before it's in the bag. But we're, as ever, totally active, fingers in all the pies, looking to, you know, promote our agenda and bring it back a bit because, you know, I don't want to be an old geezer complaining about millennials. You know, we find because we do quite a lot of shock stuff. We do quite a lot of shock stuff, and young people are so shocked at things now. Yeah, easily offended about things, and trying to sort of hold on to the freedom of expression and art and freakishness and beautiful sexuality, as ever, like yourself. You know.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I think the world needs more freakishness. Do you know what I mean? I feel that's what we've got to be ambassadors for that, Matt. Make the world weird again.
Thank you. Freddie, interesting. Have you ever talked to a man called Mick Scarlett?
I haven't, no.
You both talk really similarly. Like, I could be fooled you were Mick. Don't ask.
Really?
Now you're going to phone up and say hi.
Yeah, you sound exactly like a friend of mine is a keyboard player at a band called Adventures of Past who play TV themes like from the 60s and 70s on a Hammond organ, wear spacesuits, and you sound just like his brother, Martin, who's the singer.
All right, well, okay, good to know.
So there you go.
Dan Baines. I'm looking at your picture. You just look like a happy guy in what, your mid to late 30s?
Oh no, I'm in my 40s. Thanks a lot though. That's very, very nice of you. Yeah, I'm 40 and falling apart, but I am happy.
I'm 54 and feeling it a little. But you know, I still go kickboxing. I still do my martial arts. You know, I still enjoy all the pleasures of the flesh. And so what if like the skin's a bit looser? I don't care.
Exactly, mate. Yeah. It's been wonderful having you on the show, Matt. You know, keep being you, mate. Keep doing stuff to entertain and shock and amuse as you do. As you know, you are a work of art yourself, sir. And thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate you being on here, mate.
And I really appreciate you guys inviting me. I love getting to talk like myself with people such as yourselves. Because often in interview I have to watch what I say, and it's nice not to be able to have to. You know?
You're always welcome to come back and say whatever you want at any time.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll say this. I don't care if Ian Duncan Smith thinks he can get away. Listen, I challenged him to a duel under ancient laws of England. The fact that I couldn't fucking reach his cheek with my leather glove, which is the official way of doing a duel that he has to respond to, is frustrating. But I don't care if he's resigned. That guy's got to watch his back for the rest of his life. Okay?
Definitely, because you do kung fu, mate.
Corridor, and there'll be this old lady in an electric wheelchair whose entire life was completely fucked by him, and she's got just enough charge left in her electric wheelchair to run him over.
Fingers crossed, you know what I mean? So maybe it could be like the end of Todd Browning's Freaks, where all the disabled people just get him and make him into a disabled person himself, and so you've got no benefits now. You're living in a council house. You've got no food. That's an idea, you know.
Yeah.
All Mad Max style wheelchairs with spikes and guns on, chasing him across the desert. That'd be quite good.
Like, even more. And yes, listeners, that might sound unbearably cruel, but it's not as unbearably cruel as he's been to us. Exactly. There we are. Ended on a political note, despite my attempts not to.
Yeah. But no, he deserves it. You know what I mean? He does deserve it.
Yeah. Take care, guys. Can't wait.
It's been a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, all the best.
Thank you very much. Take care.
See you, mate.
Bye.
All the best.
Mysteries from the Files of Nathan Sarea. Therapist, Shedinite and visionary, dabbler in Volkswagen engines and the occult, and now in retreat in a shed in North Wales, the Oracle ponders the riddles of this and other worlds.
To the Mystic Menagerie podcast. It's now our regular feature, the Fortean Oracle with Nathan Sarea, who is our key to the Akashic records and the font of all bizarre knowledge. How are you, Nathan?
Well, I'm good. A little bit scratched from playing mechanics for the car this afternoon, but other than that, I'm here and ready to be my sparkly self.
That's it. Well, this is your chance to tune in and drop out or whatever you like to do. But I think what we should.
I feel like I've already done that.
Yeah. I think what we should do is we should actually tell the listeners that actually we tried to record this last night and we all got together.
We did.
And we had major Skype issues. It's the first time it's ever happened. But after 35 minutes of recording the Fortean Oracle, the recording just vanished. It stopped and absolutely, just disappeared completely. So we lost.
And we did. And if it wasn't a strange synchronicity enough, we were discussing the topic of interdimensional portals and things going and reappearing.
And that file literally just vanished off my Mac completely. There was no trace of it at all. I went on to Spotlight, Searchlight, whatever it's called, and just couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah. Isn't it? They're being watched. They're listening to us because we're onto something here with the stuff we talk about. The Fortean Oracle. They think we're uncovering all the world's mysteries. You know what I mean? Roswell conspiracy. The global world order. We're uncovering. Oh, and they're watching us as well.
Yeah. Well, it was odd because
they will. It happens. I mean, if you listen to, there's quite a few other radio shows historically that have gone on to subjects like this. And honestly, if I had a penny for every time I heard one of the presenters say the call got dropped, or the show literally got dropped and they couldn't find the file as soon as they got into some deep water about something, it happens quite frequently. So clearly, I can't even understand how a file can just vanish. It's not even in your recycle bin or your trash. Where's it gone? It's just literally gone.
Yeah,
and they've got it.
Really,
they've got it.
They've got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is, it's a brand new Mac, and Macs are they're meant to be bulletproof, aren't they? They're meant to be.
They are.
Nothing goes wrong, which is why I use it, and I've never had any issues before. But there was issues last night as well with. We both had it where it sounded like there was a fourth person either dialing in or trying to message in. There was like a half a dialing tone kept occurring throughout the recording.
Yeah.
And I couldn't trace that anywhere. I couldn't see anyone trying to message, dial in. I had no other programs or apps open. And that itself was strange. And then all of a sudden, bang, the recording's gone, and we're left high and dry.
Big Brother is watching us.
No, I think they are. I don't think Skype is a very secure system at all. I think it's a great tool, but I do think, I've had many interesting calls where there's clearly been another space on the end of the line, particularly when you're talking to people about interesting subjects like this. I do find it quite a bit that there seems to be a very, very, you can sense a third space going on and an echoing, just like someone is actually literally listening.
Like tapping off some of the call.
Absolutely.
We should feel quite honoured, though, that we've attracted the attention possibly of the security services. I can't even say it. The security services, to the extent that they actually want to listen into our shows before we've even actually edited them and put them on air. So that's something.
It's quite a compliment.
It is. I'm a strong believer as well in, out of a negative experience, you can make a positive one. And off the back of that, I was racking my brains last night thinking, that could have happened during one of our sort of high-profile interviews, like one of our celebs that we usually have on. And if that had happened, what a fuck-up. You can't really turn around to someone who's taken an hour out of their day and say, sorry, can we do that again because Dan's computer crashed. So what I've actually got now is I've actually got quite a nice little setup, which I kind of conjured up this morning, whereas I'm actually recording on the computer and through the output of the Mac to a dictaphone simultaneously. So even if one goes down, the other will continue recording. So
that's all right, Dan, because I thought you were going to say that you are recording in a circle of salt, holy water.
Well, I am. I do live in a circular building, and I've no doubt there is salt within the mortar. So I'm in a protective circle at the moment.
Got a few feathers, bit of smudge going on, and a vanishing staff.
Yeah.
A sacrifice version or two.
Oh yeah, well they're buried in the garden. So well out of sight, out of mind. That's what I like to say.
By the former owner of that property, who was probably a member of Parliament. Listen to that one,
or worked at the BBC.
You can have that.
It worked at the BBC.
Worked at the BBC. Steal my file. Try that one for size.
Yeah, exactly.
Right
there you go. Watch these people. So I say about ISIS, they must be that's upset, saying they want to get into the afterlife and deflower all these virgins. Jimmy Savile's already there. You know what I mean? That's what I tell ISIS. Jimmy Savile's already there.
But I think
he's waiting for you. He's there. Just
he's done it.
We also said I think we also said this on the last show that no one's ever specified if the virgins are male or female. But from what I can gather from ISIS, I don't think they're bothered.
Or the age, I don't think they'd be bothered about.
No. Anything will do. Could be virgin animals. Goats. Yeah. So
it'll be whatever they've been conditioned to do at Guantanamo Bay. Anything they've been told to do by the anyway.
That is a whole subject within itself.
Hasn't stricken us down. No one's attacked us. We're okay.
We are.
No one's blown up the underwear, so I think we're good to go.
Good. Well, we've kind of given the what we did last night before the call bonged out. We actually selected our subject from the PG Tips Unexplained Mysteries of the World collectible card book, and it was interdimensional portals. And we are going to cover exactly the same subject again today, and we're going to try and cover the same ground that we covered last night. But before we do kick off, it's kind of the whole thing about recording twice and all of that. It kind of takes me back to forensics, where has anyone ever heard of Schofield's second law of computing?
No.
No.
I've heard of a Schofield's law.
Yeah, well, the second law basically states that data doesn't exist unless it exists in two places simultaneously. Okay, so your photographs on your hard drive of your family when you're a child, if you've got those in no other form and that is it, really they don't exist, because all it takes is for that hard drive to become corrupt and they're lost forever. Whereas if you have it twice, you've always got a backup. So it just states that you need a backup of everything. But
yes,
it kind of got me talking about what we was talking about last night when I was on about interdimensional portals, and I was on about when I dream, that my dreams, I don't have your conventional kind of weird dreams of being chased by monsters and things. I actually, when I sleep, I go to another place where I continue another life. So I have a set of friends who I meet and places where I go that are familiar. So it's almost like I'm flitting between two realities when I sleep, and
it's like you have the backup life.
Well, it is. It's like, do you exist unless you exist in two places at the same time? So, in the same way as like Schofield's second law of computing, like, does everybody exist in other places simultaneously to have the ability to exist? I suppose it's like crazy sort of quantum physics.
Yeah.
And what happens if a self in one of those realities, because of the quantum connection, what happens when one of those selves is wiped out?
Does it wipe the other one out? Yeah.
Does it wipe the other one out, or does it start the time bomb, or ticking in terms of that life ending at some point? It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because the physicists have proven the existence in terms of mathematical models of other dimensional levels above this one, which we perceive as the third dimension. So, there are infinite timelines, there are infinite possibilities of realities occurring. One of the things that happened to me in the last couple of years, when I really found myself in a very, very sort of deep depression, and I felt this feeling of kind of being broken, literally broken in the middle of myself, even physically, like it was like my solar plexus was just kind of broken. Really strange experience. And it was only when I did a bit of sort of healing on myself, did a little bit of a path working, that I had a very strange experience of travelling to a little dimensional space that's just outside of this life. And I found another self on this kind of planetoid where I've been there before in regressions and things. And I found another self, and that self had actually been wounded. And it was almost like, whether or not that's a subconscious metaphor that's playing out, or whether or not that was actually a real thing, that another self of mine had been, because I did feel like I was dying in this life. And I'm just wondering whether or not that is a real phenomena, that other selves in other dimensions, when they're affected drastically, does that fold down onto this third dimensional life?
It's an interesting concept, and it's definitely one that I was thinking about earlier on today when I just thought, because it's been so long since I've lost data, because I'm so anal about having everything backed up all of the time. So when the call disappeared last night, it was like a real shock to the system for me. But it is like, as you say, when one existence dies, then the law states that something doesn't exist unless there's two of it. So if one dies, then the other one naturally doesn't exist, so it automatically wipes it off. So you get these people who just drop dead, like they're fit people, they've done, they've never smoked,
and they literally
they just drop dead for no apparent reason, no medical reason, nothing. No. Is that because their other self, who's in a parallel dimension, died through a more natural means, like for example car crash or illness or whatever, and that just automatically triggers the self in the other dimension to terminate automatically.
It's quite possible, isn't it? Because some of those people, like the expression, that he was dead before he hit the floor. That's something that does occur. They're quite right. So could it be that literally when your chips are up, and I would say that something like that, I would expect that to be, like you're quite right, Dan, a natural death on the other side, or just a collective wiping of the screen. So whether your personality likes it or not, you're gone. Your consciousness is recalled effectively. So I'm aware from my own spiritual experiences that we are very multidimensional beings, and yet our general perception, which is necessary for sanity in this third dimension, is this third dimension. But overall, we are incredibly expansive beings. So it's likely that we do have other selves. It's a bit like Michael Moorcock's concept of the eternal champion. Where that same sort of self, that same soul is spread all across these different worlds and different dimensions and time spaces, and yet ultimately linked in some way. It's a little bit that. So it's quite a good concept. It'd be fantastic to have the time to actually truly explore it. I've only explored it a little bit with clients and with myself. I think you could explore it for absolutely years. I have loads of fun with it.
Yeah,
who knows what you find.
Well, it also brings up the idea as well that if they are reliant on each other, these two selves in the two dimensions, then obviously not only are you concerned about the welfare of yourself in this dimension, but you need to be concerned about your welfare of yourself in the other dimension in order to maintain both lives, if you know what I mean. So, but how do you go about maintaining, or at least taking some sort of care of yourself in another dimension, and vice versa? That's because you are, say, if like I'm in my dream state, I'm still the same person in my dream, but I'm actually somewhere else doing different things with different people in another. It is another world. It's not Earth. It is another. It's another place. It's got. Yeah. It's got the same things. It's got nightclubs, it's got cars, it's got mountains, it's got car parks, and I can map all of this out in, if anyone was to say to me, create a map of the world where you go to when you dream, I can do it. But it's sort of like, well, how do I make sure that myself in that other dimension is fit and healthy and well and looking after themselves when I'm awake in this dimension? It's almost like having a trust. You've got to trust yourself. It's a bit of a head fuck, to be honest. It's like a Red Dwarf have milked that concept to death, haven't they? Every series is one where they go into another dimension and meet alternate versions of themselves. Practically every series, you know what I mean? So it's almost like having a twin, or like a Siamese twin connection to somebody, do you know what I mean? But you're impacting what you're doing could impact them as well. It's or it could have an opposite effect. Like if you do something bad, they do something good. Do you know what I mean? There could be sort of, if they're the alternate, opposite version of yourself, whatever you do, they will do differently.
That's an interesting concept, Freddie, because it might well be that it is like a seesaw, and so when we sort of jump on one side, there's an equal opposite reaction. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I wonder if there actually has been much exploration of this sort of thing, and there must be some wisdom on it from somewhere. From people who've begun to sort of, or in the past, have actually toyed with this, because I do think that there are some things that we feel that are inexplicable. Like that feeling of when they say someone walks across your grave, that's a very strange sensation. So what's that? Feelings of deja vu and feelings of future memory. It's like that. If we've got that access to future memory, like you sort of meet somebody, and I sort of had that experience of when I met Emma, and I instantly knew her, and I knew her. So, and then any time I spent with her, I found it was almost like I felt like I've been with her years. Yeah, and that strange feeling of it was inevitable, that inevitability, that must be some sort of access to, the timeline in my experience that was acknowledging that this is something which is going to happen, is a real relationship, has longevity. So and I've had that quite a bit with people. So for me, there's a you meet people, don't you, and you instantly have that recognition.
You do, yeah. You've got an instant rapport with people, like you've already known them. Yeah. It's like we did, Dan, didn't we? When we first met, it was like, definitely.
You were wearing a funny little pair of horns, and I thought, he's so cute. that beard, those horns. I had no idea.
He looks familiar.
Crazy shit he's in. He looks familiar.
Those goat's legs.
Hooven.
The red skin.
Cloven hooves. There must be something. There must be something in that, mustn't there? There must be, because clearly is a reaction. It clearly is a reaction on a gut level, isn't it? It's a very much a subconscious reaction. You feel it. It's just a recognition.
The weird thing is because you get doppelgangers and stuff like that. When twins, they could be, rather than being born in another dimension or another reality, they're born together by mistake in this dimension. Because twins have that connection, don't they? Sometimes you see twins and they're opposite to each other. They may look the same, but they do opposite things. You know what I mean?
That's very good. That's very good. Because obviously, if that was the case, then you'd have 4, wouldn't you? Because you'd have another 2 in the opposite in the other dimension. So. Yep. But like if Freddie says, if they're both born in a way accidentally into one dimension, does that mean they don't exist in the other?
It may well be that they fully exist here, because I've had close friends since I was 12 years old who were identical twins. They look very different as they've grown older. They are more distinguishable. And but when I'm around them, because I'm quite empathic, I get the same link that they have, because the way they explain it is they can walk down a lane somewhere and they don't need to look from left to right, because if one's looking left and one's looking right, they are just fully aware that their conjoined consciousness is picking up everything on either side, so they don't need to turn to the other side because the other twin's looking that way and they can already sense it. So when I'm around them, I get the experience of being like the third twin. And it happened once a few years ago when I was staying with their folks down in Shropshire, and we had a triple dream where we'd all dreamt the same dream, just in slightly different versions. We dreamt exactly the same concept of the dream, just slightly different versions of the same thing.
Strange.
And now, what are the chances? I've never experienced that. It was really weird.
So, alternate dimensions and alternate versions of ourselves, are they real or not? Do we feel that they could be a thing that happens, something that's out there?
I think it's. Yeah. I think it's. It's strange, isn't it, when you start getting to the concepts of genetic cloning. Now, how does that affect? See, this is where you get this thing of spiritual ethics. Is there some really, really bad juju involved with cloning people? How does that affect that dimensional ripple? If you can actually clone a human being, but do you clone their consciousness, or do they just become an empty vessel of it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I don't believe from my own experience that our cellular representation physically is where all the information is stored, because my life has been made up of all those experiences of thoughts and emotions and chemical triggers. It's an amazing map of data that's now 45 plus years in the making. So how could you clone me with all of that memory and all that knowledge and all that experience across all those time, space, locations? How could you map that? How could you copy it? That's so. I think it's impossible. Well, you could perhaps replicate me physically, but how could you replicate my being?
It's like, if you consider what we've just spoken about, i.e., yourself and your other dimensional self, you've got a kind of balance. You've got one on one side and one on the other. One dies, the other dies, to restore the balance. But as you say, with clones, if one is created artificially, then the balance is not there anymore. And what happens when you've got an imbalance an interdimensional imbalance? How does that affect the other one? And does it?
So it is. Is energy in the universe? Consciousness being an energy, I would say. Is it, like we're led to believe? Is it finite, or is it constantly expanding and growing? So is us as a soul, us as a being, are we finite? So is it so much of a package of energy that's kind of divided into 2 or 4 or 6 or 8? Or can we have as many us as you know, the kind of universe can contain? Weird one, isn't it?
Well, the interesting thing is, if you could actually like get someone's personality and do a backup of their personality, imagine that, and then you can make a clone and you can install the personality. Do you know what I mean? So you can do a backup like you would to back up your computer. That's got your history on it, everything you looked at, all your dodgy sites, all your music, and everything else. And you can back the computer onto a hard drive, buy another a completely different laptop, whack that hard drive in there, and it's the same as your last one. So but if you could do it with a human being, you could, like someone with Alzheimer's, you could say, look, the hard drive's corrupted, let's reload the personality back on. Bingo.
Yeah, let's
download it into a new body.
Let's fix those corrupt sectors and get them back on track.
On the brain. Like the brain starts going, all the memories are going, load their memories back up from this backup thing you could do. In the future, who knows? I'm sure I saw a science fiction thing where they did do that. It was... I'll tell you what, it's a Twilight Zone. What it was an episode of the Twilight Zone where these 2 people were really old. They were like about 80. And they were saying to them that they could have new bodies, you know what I mean? They could live longer by getting new bodies.
I remember this,
And basically what happens is they go into it's like a museum thing where these bodies are there. They look like robots, they look like humans, but I don't know if they're synthetic people or whatever. But it's almost like a showroom. They can say, the woman goes, I love that body over there.
Can shoot them,
one. Yeah, and what happens is I think that they take their personality out of the machine and install and the whole personality and install it in this new body. And I think what it is, the woman goes through with it, but the bloke hasn't got enough money or something like that, and she goes off with someone else. I think that's the story. But basically, they take her personality. It goes in the machine, take her personality out. You see her memories flashing on this screen, like all the memories go back to childhood. They take it out of that body, the old one, and put it into like a younger body. And that is in the Twilight Zone. There's an episode of that. I can't remember what episode's called now. But I'm sure a listener who likes Twilight Zone will be able to sort of jog our memories a bit.
I think if you go on Wikipedia, it's probably got a list of every single episode. And then
so I've got a book somewhere, like a Twilight Zone, because I've got them all on DVD, but I can't remember the titles. I've got a book somewhere, a guide. I have to try and look it up. Yeah, but it's a good episode. Yeah, I thought that could happen in the future. You know, your brain could be seen to be like a hard drive. And if it gets corrupted, or you say someone gets brain damage or something like that, you can just reload it all up, and then bingo, away they go again.
Well, I'm pretty sure that will be a reality, you know, in the next 100 years, possibly. You know, the way technology is increasing at the moment. They've probably
already got it.
Yeah, they've already from stem cells, you can recreate whole organs.
Maybe they're all doing it. Maybe when people are babies, right? They've been doing it for the last 30 years. So anybody under 30 is very generic. If you look at anybody under 30, they all like the same music. They all dress the same. They all like the same TV show. So if you meet someone who's like 25, you say, "Oh, what music do you like?" "Oh, I like Ed Sheeran and all this sort of stuff." And "Oh, what programs do you watch?" "I like watching Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad." They all like the same stuff. It's almost like they've got the same personality and put it into all these babies in this year. So all this generation that come through now are basically the same person, or slight variations that could have already happened. Because they always say if everybody likes the same thing, then the world will be boring. And everybody does like the same thing, and the world is boring. So I think that's what's happened. I think it's already happened. That's what everybody likes.
Idiocracy is being promoted, and individuality, and individuality is being sort of stamped out, isn't it? It's almost like, you know, if you're different, or you dare to be different, or you're a free thinker, or that is being encouraged out of people. You can see it almost like it's trying to be bred out generation after generation. I think you're quite right. There's definitely something to that. So for people like us, I mean, we're fucked.
Yeah,
because we can never be normal. We just won't fit into the square hole. What can we do?
I think
how can we be more mainstream? Like my dad always said to me, he said, son, if you cut your hair, I'll buy you nice clothes like all the other lads wear. And I went, Dad, fuck off. It never happens. Sorry, I could have joined the house scene in Essex, and then I just didn't. It just didn't happen, guys. And I'm glad, really, because I think I've lost my soul.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like these days a lot of the people are very like that, aren't they? They're very much conform. I mean, these days it's more conforming rather than rebelling. You know, when I was a teenager, anything that had advertising splashed all over it, people were sceptical of it. You know, anything corporate, people were sceptical. They wanted to be individual. People more into independent stuff, like independent music, independent shops.
Yeah. You know, and you didn't want to wear badges, did you? You didn't want to wear a badge. I mean, I had this conversation the other day, and someone was saying, "Well, do you remember these NAF jackets?" And you wore this, and I was like, "Ah, well, no. My life was completely diverse.
Dido.
Yeah, anything like that, I just completely eschewed that. I definitely was completely abhorrent, so I wouldn't wear it.
You take your favourite band on, but not advertising a company, a big corporation, Nike and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
People seem quite, they're walking billboards these days.
Yeah, but that sort of started probably a decade after us. I mean, that sort of started in the, kids who were born and raised in the 80s, to be honest. That's what I noticed, and it was installed by the 90s. So you had to have your Adidas trainers, and everything had labels, Lacoste, and you just
puppies.
And anything like that for me was just I couldn't think of anything further from my own sense of style or being. I just I'd never have anything like that. So it all that completely passed me by, because I just, like you say, I was very, very different from alternative. Always will be. So I see it. You do see it in kids nowadays. Like you say, everything's got to be, it's almost like the analogy with the, bananas. Those bananas are too curvy. You've got to have straight bananas, straight vegetables.
Straight vegetables.
As opposed to gay vegetables.
Yeah. I think Freddie brought up the topic of doppelgangers not so long ago, and maybe the doppelganger is the other you shifting into this dimension, but unintentionally. So maybe we do it in that dimension as well. Maybe we maybe sometimes drift in and out, and someone will say, I saw you the other day, and you'd be like, well, you couldn't have done because I was, on holiday or whatever. And they say, no, it was definitely you. You were in the shops buying porn. And I know that wasn't me. Honestly,
funny enough,
that wasn't me.
I told you before about that. I told you before about that party that I went back after show party.
Yes,
where I met Lou Reed.
This is a killer story. You got to go for it, Freddie. This one. Yeah, this is brilliant. Yeah.
Well, I went to the Royal Festival Hall years ago to see this jazz. He's like a jazz. I say singer, but all he does, he tells stories over music. Called Ken Nordine. He's quite old now. I mean, he's about 98 now. But he never played in the UK before. Yeah. In the 50s, they made an album called Word Jazz, and what they were like spoken word stories about very surreal stuff. And it's a very deep baritone voice like this, very good for radio. And one album was called Colours. Every track was a minute long and about a different colour and what the personality of that colour would be like, And he was doing a gig at the Royal Festival Hall, but it's a thing called Meltdown Festival, where they get like a curator. So someone famous, like it could be David Bowie did it, and he'd choose all the acts that are on and perform at the end himself. So it's over like a weekend. And Ken Nordine was playing on the Meltdown Festival. It's like at the Royal Festival Hall. It's the Queen Elizabeth Hall, the smaller one, and it's Laurie Anderson hosting it. So I said, my mate is a big fan. I said, look, we go to see Ken Nordine. I said, hopefully if we hang around backstage and hopefully he might come down, he might sign my CDs, because it's very rare we're going to meet him because he's such an obscure character. So we went there. First surreal thing was during the interval, had a drink with Jarvis Cocker from Pulp. And then afterwards, we thought we'll hang about backstage because there's a security gate there, and like a backstage area, and there's a bloke there. And I said, would Ken Nordine come down? Because I wouldn't mind if he'd sign my CDs. I'd be very grateful, if he'd do that. And he said, okay, hold on a minute. And then a party of people turned up, about 20 people, and this woman who had like a clipboard, obviously in charge, she goes, everyone for the after show party, please follow me this way. I said, mate, look, fucking tag along, just blend in, yeah. So we blended in with this crowd of people, walked up the stairs, and when we got out in the room, Laurie Anderson was like greeting people, like a host, just going hello, and all that. She cut to me, she goes, I haven't seen you for ages. Oh, it's so great to see you. And gave this massive hug, right? She hugged me. And I thought, I don't know. She said, who does she think I am? She goes, how you doing? What are you been up to lately? I thought, God's sake. I said, the usual stuff, what I'm like, keep doing it, so I don't know whether I was an artist or whatever. Anyway, she grabbed me by the hand and said, come and have a drink, right, and gave me put a drink in my hand. She goes, you same drink you usually drink? Yeah, what if it was the gin and tonic, because I don't need to drink. And then she goes, Lou's over there, Lou Reed, her husband, he hasn't seen you for ages as well. I'm so happy to see you. So I was taken over to meet Lou Reed, who was in the corner, indoors, with sunglasses on, just not interacting with anybody, sitting in the corner, skulking, just trying to look moody. So I chatted with Lou Reed, and he seemed to recognise me a bit as well. He looked a bit more. I'm not entirely sure who you are, but I think I know who you are. Whereas Laurie Anderson thought she knew me. Anyway, I said to her, is Ken Nordine here? She goes, yeah, come meet him. So she pushed all these people out of the way. And she goes, you've got to meet my friend. He thought you were fantastic. So I chatted with Ken Nordine for half an hour, and he signed the CD, so I got the sign. But then Laurie Anderson kept sort of saying, come over and have something to eat and come and have a drink. So it's really, I thought she knew me. But I've never met her in my life. I don't know who she thought I was, or what she thought I was, or what I did. Yeah, but obviously I must have looked exactly like somebody that she was really good friends with. This wasn't just someone she vaguely knew. It was someone that she knew really well, you know.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Very strange.
I was thinking, call me by name so I can Google it or something, you know. Call me by name or something like this, you know, but she didn't. But it's just like, you know, treat me like an old friend, you know, kissing me on each cheek and hugging me and grabbing my hand and giving me a drink and you know, and say hello to this person, say hello to that person, and blah 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 blah. Oh, I thought so and so was going to come tonight. What happened to them? I was making excuse. Oh, you know, he's not very well at the moment, you know. So, it really isn't it? You know, asking about these people that I didn't know who they were. But she was 100% convinced that I was this person that she thought it was. Yeah, and I thought I ain't going to say anything. I mean, the after show party. You know, I'm having a drink with Lou Reed. I've met Ken Norden, got the CD signed. I'm shooting the breeze with Lou Reed. I ain't gonna blow my cover. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna enjoy this. So we had a great time. Yeah, when we went, she's going to me. When I went, she goes, "Oh, you guys so soon?" Because I had to get a train. It's about midnight, I think. She goes, "Oh, next time come over. You know where we live. You know, we're in New York, where it was. You know, come over and you know, the same apartment. You know, just anytime you want. Just give me a call before, and you can come over and stay with us and all that." Well, bloody hell! But if I didn't know her number and apartment, I would go over and stay with them. You know.
Yeah, it's fun but slightly creepy to the point that they were so sure that you were this other person that they seemed to know so well. Yet it wasn't.
Yeah, they were 100% convinced. 100% convinced. Yeah, they didn't think it's anyone else but that. But there's no doubts in their mind at all that I was anyone other than whoever it was they thought I was.
Yeah.
But were you in guise, or were you in just, you know,
no,
looking like yourself?
It's before transformation, you know. And
really,
just annoying. Yeah,
it does make sense. Weird.
So it was very weird. It was very weird. I was a bit sort of taken aback by it, but it was kind of good at the same time. My mate couldn't believe it. His mouth was open. I think, bloody hell! You know, do you know her? I said, no, I don't fucking know her. Just go along with it, you know. But yeah, it was surreal to say the least. But you know,
it almost reminds me of I think it might have been the Fortean Times or another podcast. I listen to and read so many of these types of things. It reminds me of another sort of more creepy doppelganger story where this girl. She's like a teenage girl, lives with her mum, and her mum gets up and goes to work every morning at 8 o'clock and leaves the house. And I think her mum was a nurse, and the girl was having a bit of a lie-in, and about sort of 10 o'clock in the morning she heard someone downstairs moving around, and she thought, well, that's odd, because she thought, well, my mum's at work. So she goes downstairs, and as she's going downstairs she just sees part of a person going into the kitchen downstairs, and she kind of stops and shouts mum, and then she basically said her mum came out of the kitchen, looked at her and went, "You bitch," and then basically stormed out and slammed the front door and disappeared.
Weird.
So what she does straight away, because she's just come downstairs, she's got a nightie on and that, she doesn't want to run out into the street. She calls her mum, thinking her mum's going to pick up the phone straight away outside, and her mum is at work 10 miles away at the hospital. So it's like, well, who the fuck was the person who she saw seconds ago in the house, who was her mother?
Yep.
You know, what was that? Is it like a, you know, are doppelgangers a kind of dimensional sort of demon that like emulates you, or is it?
Well, that sounds really. That's the sort of experience
that's true. Yeah,
you, isn't it? They really would. That really would, because you know, that would you. There was no way to rationally answer a manifestation like that, because I remember, like, you know, years ago, my nan had seen something like this. She saw my little brother come into the house, back from school, and run up the stairs. And she called after him. You know, she went out from the kitchen into the hall, where she was like, Brett. And she went upstairs, and he wasn't there. And she said, but he, you know, it was definitely him with his sort of like, you know, black coat. And she heard him come in through the hall, round the stairs, up the stairs, and she shouted up after him, and it wasn't him at all. He came in about sort of half an hour later. Mind you, we had weird manifestations at that place, but it's perfectly feasible that things do, you know, completely just appear like us. And but for her to turn around and call her a bitch and
and it was physical as well, because obviously it actually opened the door and slammed it, and went. So it was an actual physical being or whatever it was that was either emulating her mum or it was a doppelganger. I mean, it kind of. There's another story as well which hails back to my Navy days. I don't know if anyone's been watching Royal Navy School on Channel 4, because I kind of watched it just to sort of nostalgia. But this memory only came back to me after watching the Royal Navy School programme, because the training blocks are exactly the same. They're the same blocks that I did my basic training in over 20 years ago. But the training is particularly hard, especially on things like kit muster. So I failed my first kit muster because I used one of those Kiwi quick shine things on my shoes because I couldn't be asked to polish them properly. So I got a severe bollocking and a warning, and basically if I failed another kit muster I would have been kicked out of basic training. So it was coming up for the final kit muster, and I'd got a load of combat rig that hadn't been washed yet. It was all, been on the assault course. It was muddy and dirty and smelly. So I put it in a bin bag and I put it underneath my bed, but I pushed it right to the top of the bed in between two lockers. And I thought if my bed was immaculate and didn't get tipped, no one would see underneath the bed. So that was my logic anyway. So I did my kit muster, put my dirty clothes in this bin bag, stuffed it underneath the bed right at the back, and I went away and did whatever I did, got physical training or assault course or whatever. Came back a few hours later and the kit musters had been done, and quite a few of the beds had been tipped over and things thrown everywhere, but my kit was immaculate. It wasn't touched. And but I looked underneath the bed and the bag had gone, and I thought,
weird.
Fuck. I thought,
saving up for something special for you.
Yeah, I thought I'm in big trouble here.
Really nasty.
Yeah. So I went down to the divisional officer's office and knocked on the door and said, Baines, permission to speak, sir. And he went, speak. And I went, have I passed my kit muster? He went, yes, congratulations, you've passed. And I went, okay, that's great. But what about my bag? And he went, what bag? What are you talking about? And I just thought then straight away, I've got to shut the fuck up. I said, oh, nothing, sir, sorry, I'm getting mixed up with something. And I thought, what? Where has it gone? And I don't know what made me do it, right, but we were on the second floor and there was a third floor above where we were, and it was almost like a carbon copy of the floor that we were on, but it was completely unoccupied. And then we were told that it was completely unoccupied because the previous year one of the trainees had thrown himself out the window and committed suicide during basic training, so no one went up there. But I just got a very odd urge to go to that top floor, and I went up and it's completely empty, it's cold and quiet, and I went in and I went into the mess which was directly above my mess, and I looked under the bed which was directly above my bed, and the bin bag was underneath it in exactly the same place. Yeah. I just cannot explain it to this day. I mean, it's almost like it teleported directly above through the floor. It teleported 20 feet from the bottom of my bed to the bottom of the bed above, and I just have no explanation how it got there, because no one ever owned up to it throughout the basic training. No one ever said, well,
Frank or something. Yeah,
Frank. No one knew anything about it whatsoever. I was the only person who knew about that bag, and I don't know why. I don't know what compelled me to go up to the next floor and look under the bed. I just don't know. It's the strangest thing ever. And
that is the strangest thing, isn't it? What was that compulsion? Yeah, because what are the chances? Well, I mean, it's completely beyond all odds, isn't it? But what are the chances of you having that compulsion just to go? Unless you do have very strange selective memory and you actually sleepwalked, put it there yourself, came back down. But why wouldn't you have some kind of residual memory of doing
I'd never been on that floor before, though. No one ever went up there. No one was allowed to go up there. It was out of bounds. It was, it was an empty training block. There was no need to ever go up there. So
weird.
What made me go up there and look under that bed?
A lot of these military bases are built on old ancient sites, aren't they, or energy points? That's something that but that's a really weird thing, Dan. That's the sort of thing that make you go a bit like, don't like it.
Talking of weird,
you know,
talking of weird,
put more stuff under your bed. See if it appeared upstairs again.
Oh no,
exactly. That would be interesting.
That copy of Razzle.
Maybe it's a Dan in another dimension. You know, moving kit bags about just for a laugh. Practical joke, a doppelganger in another dimension.
Yeah,
you never know. Talking of weird stuff, I want to talk about a story that I put on the blog recently, and to see what you both think of this. Right?
Okay.
Because any of the listeners haven't seen it. If you look at the website, the www.themysticmenagerie.com. Which is a fantastic website, but we have a blog as well. We have weird stories around the world, so we try to find the unusual stuff you may not have seen or heard before. It's all quite bizarre. This is a really weird story. This is in the Metro, the newspaper Metro. If it's not in the UK, it's a newspaper you get free on the tubes in London.
Does it involve bumming?
But there was a story that involved bumming, but this
not the paper.
But it could have been some bumming, or the person may have bummed somebody because. This is on the Saturday the 12th of March. It's quite recent, you know. And the headline is, naked man thinks he's a werewolf, growls and attacks car in moonlight rampage. Okay? Now get this is the story. It says, a naked man who apparently thought he was a werewolf ran through the street growling and harassing motorists and pedestrians, police said. In CCTV footage from Kladno in the Czech Republic, a nude man covered in blood chases people, jumps into a car bonnet and attacks arresting officers. And there's a video there, so you can watch it. It's good. Police reported the man seemed to feel, quotation marks, no pain. Officers were eventually able to subdue the man and take him to a nearby station. The suspect continued to cause mayhem, they said, and damaged his police cell. He'd earlier climbed onto a first-floor balcony of a local home, smashed through the glass window and attacked a family, according to reports. Blood sample tests showed the man to be completely sober. He would undergo psychiatric evaluation. Weird, isn't it? And also, there's actually a condition called clinical lycanthropy, and it's described on Wikipedia as thus. Okay, clinical lycanthropy defines a rare psychiatric syndrome that involves the delusion that the affected person can transform into, has transformed into, or is a non-human animal. Its name is connected to the mythical condition of lycanthropy, a supernatural affliction in which humans are said to physically shapeshift into wolves. It's reported to be a rare disorder. What do you think of that? He didn't look like a wolf in the picture, just like a bloke with his, you can see his bum.
I was just thinking that I had a story. There was a story, a proper news story reported in the early 90s of a man in Southend-on-Sea who'd been arrested, and it was claimed by the police doctor, that the man was genuinely suffering from lycanthropy. So, he actually genuinely seemed to have that disorder or whatever. I don't know how it comes on, but he had completely believed himself to be a werewolf or a wolf, or obviously it's lycanthropy, it's definitely a wolf, isn't it? So it must be. So it's not the first time I've heard of it. I obviously it's a recorded, documented disorder and phenomena. So
the term lunacy comes from the word lunar for moon, lunacy and loon. So there is something in it that the moon has a certain pull on certain people.
Yes, it does. Yeah, peak suicide rate, peak violent crime rate. It's always around full moon time. Go on, Freddie. Yeah.
Does he believe he actually believes a wolf, or has he seen too many werewolf films and he's a nutcase? Is it a condition? Does he believe he's a wolf? Is there something wolf-like in him? Is there wolf genes in his family, in ancestry? Do you know what I mean? That's been passed down, or some weird mixture? Is it? Yeah. Or could it be just he's watched too many horror films and is a bit nuts?
But then where do these archetypal legends come from? Because, when we think about what mythology is, well, mythology to the people of ancient times is just their kind of contemporary cultural stories, isn't it? It becomes mythology when we look at it and it's like, oh, that's a nice mythology, but to them it's obviously quite real. It's like the little things that sort of surface now and again. It's like the legend of the Rama Setu, which is a bridge between, is it Sri Lanka and the mainland, and it was apparently built by Rama, in the Indian, god. And when they've looked at it, they've decided that this thing is like 1.75 million years old, and it appears to be man-made, like made out of blocks of stones. Someone actually created it. So you think, well, hang on a second, if that's in the kind of, is it the Mahabharata? What's the other Hindu?
It's Mahabharata, I think. Yeah, I think they used to be on when I came back from the pub in the 80s.
The Ramayana. It's the Ramayana.
Good TV show, that.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's it. Yeah,
Hub-Rat, great
the
TV
Hub-Rat,
show.
Hub-Rat was brilliant. Yeah,
I had no idea what was happening, but it looked good.
Do you remember all the arrows flying everywhere? Yeah,
Yeah,
No, it was in
rubber ones.
That's right. Yeah,
Rubber arrows.
This was in the. I think it's in the Ramayana, something like that. Don't quote me, but just things like that. So that's a bit of mythology, and yet when you actually find the physical evidence of the actual structure, it is man-made, but it's 1.75 million years old. So you think, oh, fucking hell! And he claimed it was built with the help of these ape creatures. Yeah. So you look at it and think, well, hang on a second. Then that's where perhaps hominids come from. Perhaps they were a form of, Sasquatch or Almas or something like that were actually physically still alive, walking around, interacting. So they were like more Neanderthal-like. But so things like that. So this mythology. So where do werewolves come from? Because they've been a popular myth, a horror, and for as long as I can remember. So where did the stories first come from? But they are recorded so are vampires. They're recorded right through history, right back. Yeah, right back. Even the Vedas in India talk about vampires. So you think, well, okay, so there are some, kind of, they're not so mythological then, are they? Because they seem to be existing for tens of thousands of years in cultures. I mean, even the ancient Taoists have like demons and vampire type creatures. So, where's this Wolfman thing come from? Because I think ever since I first watched the American Werewolf in London, which was one of the first horror films I ever really watched, and God, it really struck a chord with me. It really triggered something in me, like a real primal thing. And I must admit that when a friend of mine went to a wolf sanctuary, and she brought some pictures back of these are not just these are like rescue wolves, and when she brought back these pictures of real wolves, and there's a picture of one stalking her in the compound, and it's picture of its face, and I tell you, something deep within me reacted to that face, and I get the same sort of reaction when I look at, for example, the Tasmanian tiger. Yeah, there's something beyond the physical about these creatures. There's something otherworldly about them, and something triggers in me. It makes me go, "Oh no, that's it's got some other intelligence to it, or something." So I wonder where it's come from.
Why wolves? There's so many different creatures.
Yeah. So why the wolf?
Yeah. Why the tiger?
Because I think it's something to do with that when you've got creatures like that in the wild, humans aren't the top of the food chain. They're actually the apex predator. Which kind of puts you on a level sort of playing field with them. So you have like a kind of almost like a desire to be that good at killing and hunting or whatever. So there's like a kind of, I don't know, I can see how people would want to be wolves or tigers, or you wouldn't want to be a sloth or a beaver, would you? You don't get a were-beaver or a were-sloth. You get something that's good.
It's funny thing to say about this, because people, my granddad,
was a werewolf.
He wasn't. No, unfortunately not. But what he do is he always compared people's expressions or the way they walked with the mannerisms to animals. I say that bloke over there, he's like a cockatoo. Look at the nose and all that, or something like that. That's like a poodle, or that one. He's like a toucan. Look at his big nose. He compare people to animals. Do you know what I mean? Or he's like a squirrel. Look at his face. What someone be eating? He's eating like a squirrel. He compare people to animals, like animal characteristics of people. So maybe there is something there with maybe people. We say about spirit animals and the Chinese horoscope. Maybe we do have a connection to a certain animal.
What would yours be, Freddie?
This thing of skin.
Chimpanzee, obviously.
Is that what you look when you haven't got the wig and the moustache on? Is it literally you have a very simian face underneath? Very
simian face, yeah, and I walk like one as well. That sort of cautious walk. I tell you, the funny thing is,
he is that human.
I think I did see you wanking in a tree in the park once.
Yeah, I did. I was swinging on a rubber tire. I got a rubber tire out, but it was a bit of string. It was good fun. Flicking shit at people out the window, and
flicking
stuff I like to do,
And riding the little tricycle in dungarees.
Yeah. Cut of PG tips. Bit of PG tips on the go, you know what I mean? It's lovely. But it's funny, you know, it's say that because I mean, like, one thing that makes me always laugh is, you know, when it's ice, when it's been snowing, and people don't want to fall over, they walk very cautiously. They walk like chimpanzees. Next time it snows and it's icy, right, have a look out the window. People do that sort of. They walk in the ice very cautious, almost like on the side of their foot. Because chimpanzees walk on the side of their foot. Their balance, that's why they go from side to side. And people, when it's been snowing and it's ice on the ground, they don't want to fall over. It's very icy. They all walk like chimps. I look out the window and I see people walking around doing this tentative chimp walk, which makes me laugh. The next time it snows, have a look. You know what I mean. Then you watch people.
We should observe them. Yeah.
It's like Planet of the Apes. It's like was devolved, you know, we're getting to about ape. A bit of snow, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think we've said this on a previous show, but a prequel to American Werewolf in London would make an excellent movie, because you don't know anything about the wolf that attacks David and
no, you don't.
Do you? But all the villagers at the Slaughtered Lamb, they know about it.
They know about it.
Yeah. They gather there every full moon and sort of stick together because they know that whoever it is out there hunting. So that would make a great prequel movie to the actual story of whoever it was, how they became, you know, it would be the wolf, it would be, but the title would be a bit shit. It'd just be like a Yorkshire werewolf in Yorkshire.
Yorkshire, yeah. Or American Werewolf versus Superman or something like that. They could do, couldn't they?
Exactly.
Try it like that at the moment, don't they?
Yeah.
Spin-off.
Last of the Summer Werewolf.
That'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, you could have Compo and all that. Because they did the Dash Army remake. You could have Compo and all that. Chasing the werewolf down the hill in a bathtub.
That'd be, very good. Yeah.
That could be done, couldn't it?
And Nora Batty attacks it with the broom.
I was going to say, it'd be Nora Batty. Yeah. They look down at her wrinkled stockings.
Yeah. It's funny, though, a lot of American TV series have crossovers. Like somebody from one programme will appear in another, and someone from Mexico will appear in this, and the character they cross over. We don't do that in Britain, but I think we should do. Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that, you know. That would definitely work.
Yeah. It would.
Yeah. There's not enough cross-fertilisation, you know.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. I think what we'll do is now...
I'd love to know, really, how ancient those legends are, and like you say, why is it wolf? Is there something to do with you know, because the Native Americans talk about this, don't they? Do they call them skinwalkers, isn't it?
Skinwalkers,
yeah, that's right,
yeah. Their ability they pick different animals, don't they? Bears, bears and wolves, and
then they appear like rogue bears or rogue wolves, don't they? That are super violent towards people, and you know, go off on killing sprees. So it is a really interesting concept. I think as we look, if we had more insight into those animistic cultures, then this kind of thing would perhaps be, you know, far more accepted. And but in Europe, I mean, there are records, isn't there, of werewolf attacks going right back through the ages.
Yeah, they're very predominant in like Eastern Europe. You know,
they are.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
Probably still are.
You know.
They still do have. I mean, it's sort of like we have fears of things that we know aren't. Do you know what I mean? Or old myth, even like superstition, like don't walk under a ladder and all that. And I feel that in Eastern Europe, I spoke to a friend of mine, Lithuanian. They still have fear of things like trolls and vampires and stuff like that.
Yep.
and they're very scared of witchcraft, because he was like a Roman Catholic. I'm very proud of it, but he's saying most of the people in this country, some of them are still pagans, and that's very scary. I don't like pagans and all that. And there's a religion over there in Lithuania where they worship bees. The bees are like the god, because they give honey.
Really?
And they've got a museum. Yeah, they've got a museum about this religion. I can't remember what it's called now, but I think you Google Lithuania bee museum. It's all about this religion that worships bees, and it's almost like a cult that only sprung up in that country, but they like worship the bee. And that's the animal they worship. And he sort of said, it's stupid stuff. I'm a Catholic. I don't believe in that. And he's quite scared. If he mentioned things like trolls or you know, anything like vampires or werewolves, he's sort of like, do you believe in them? He goes, I don't want to think about it. You know, I don't think they're true, but they might be. That kind of attitude, you know. So there's still the mythology is still there. I think.
Well, there's an aspect of old English folklore that bees are actually messengers for the fairies. So they actually use bees to, you know, scope out things, and the bees go back and report on what your movements are. And there is like a thing where you actually say good morning to the bee, and, you know, sort of bid it sort of good day in order to keep it sort of sweet, so when it goes back to tell the fairies what you're doing, it's kind of says, you know, you're behaving yourself. And last summer I always open the studio doors, and every day for about 2 weeks, I don't know if it was the same bumblebee or not, but this huge bumblebee would come into the studio, do a circuit of the studio, and just fly straight back out the door again. Obviously it's on its sort of pollen collecting route, but its route always went through my studio, and I always used to think of that when it came through. It was almost like it was doing its daily rounds. It'd come in and go, "Morning, Baines, anything to report?" And you go, "No, not today, sir. Everything's good. Oh, good. Oh, carry on. I'll see you tomorrow." And off it went, and it'd be there again the next day as well. But I do a thing where if I find a bee on the ground that's you find them where they're exhausted, don't you? Where they're just either too far from the hive and they're too knackered, and you just see a bee resting on the ground. If you actually put some honey or syrup in front of it, it will eat enough of it to give it the energy to take off and fly off again. So I do that quite a lot. We get quite a lot of them where we are. So I just go out, feed them, and then 10 minutes later they've gone again. So otherwise they just die and get trampled on. So.
Bees, everyone likes bees, but no one likes wasps today. No one likes a wasp.
No one likes a wasp. No, definitely not.
No. It's just that's another little thing.
They're the insect equivalent of ISIS, aren't they?
They are. They are. Donald Trump doesn't like wasps.
No, he wants to get rid of all wasps. Wasp sprays for every household. You vote for me, wasp sprays in every household.
Yeah.
How's Trump doing at the polls? Is he lined up to win yet? 'Cause
8 to 1, is it? Or something, I think.
You gotta love it.
Yeah,
it's just ace, isn't it?
They always joke president. They have Ronald Reagan before. They always.
I was going to say that. Yeah, it's a comedy president. Awesome, love it.
You want Donald Trump, Boris Johnson, Vladimir Putin. I mean, the world.
Well, Morrissey's standing for London Mayor, apparently, isn't he? Morrissey's standing for London Mayor.
I'd vote for Morrissey.
No.
Yeah, he is. No, he is.
The Animal Liberation Party, or was it Animal Freedom Party? They want him to stand, and he's up for it. Morrissey's the Mayor of London. Boris Johnson is the Prime Minister, and old Trump, as the President.
The world would be a very interesting place, which it isn't at the moment. It's quite sad and depressing. But with those guys at the helm, it'd be like, whoa, what's going to happen today?
You get stand-up comedians got a lot of material, though, wouldn't it? I mean, all that Cameron's given them is the thing with the pig. Do you know what I mean? And also, you hate Table, which is fair enough. But he's not. He's not a nice bloke, but he's not comical. You know what I mean? Same as Obama. He's not comical enough.
No.
Oh no, it's a bit like when you look at it. We have these comparative presidents and prime ministers, don't we? You really do. You have a bit of a kind of a mediocre, bit of a nutter. We seem to have little counterparts. I mean, like Obama and Cameron. They're all a bit serious, aren't they? Not very funny. Both a pair of pig fuckers. So you just think, put Trump in. Put Boris Johnson in. I reckon the world lasts about 30 seconds.
Well, I'd be digging. I'd be planning my bunker in the back garden. Put it that way.
It's all going Pete on.
Yeah,
apes will be ready to take over. That will be, damn you all to hell. That's that moment, I reckon.
Yeah.
I was watching a film the other day actually, and it had. I can't remember which film it was, but Planet of the Apes was on it in the background when they were watching it, and it was there for a reason, but I cannot remember for the life of me what film it was.
Oh, right. Well, the original Planet of the Apes, the Charlton Heston.
Yeah. And it was it's bugging me now which film it was, but there was definitely they were watching TV, and then Planet of the Apes was on, but you can tell it was there for a specific reason, that it was a certain bit of Planet of the Apes. It might come to me in a bit. The
original one was quite disturbing, wasn't it? It was.
At the time,
very, very disturbing at the time. It really was. It definitely affected me watching it. Really did.
The new one was pretty shit.
I like the recent two ones. I mean, the Tim Burton one was a bit.
That was just like Invasion of the Janet Jacksons.
Yeah, I hate when they call it. I hate when people refer to things as a reboot, or it's like you get people. I mean, if you're a fan of something, you describe a film series. You know, I like the series of Carry On films or the Star Wars series, but they call it a franchise. And every fan now, again, it's talking back to people being generic, sounds like a man who works in a boardroom, a marketing man. They refer to franchise and reboot, and they use these buzzwords. So even a fan of something has reduced what they like down to like a commercial item rather than a work of art. It's become a commodity, you know, like a unit franchise and all that. And I hate these sort of things. But that Tim Burton one, I mean, the prosthetics were quite good, but I still think the 1968 ones were better, and the story was better. But the two.
I agree. I think the prosthetics are much better. I mean, even if you look at 2001: Space Odyssey, the apes are more convincing in 1968, then honestly, CGI for me just doesn't really do it. Because it's not a real thing, I can't relate to it. My mind just goes, it's a fucking thing. It's not even real. You know, so you can't really relate to it. It's visually entertaining, but I don't like over usage of it. I'm far more interested in prosthetics and maquettes and the real thing. You know, because it has that, my mind registers it as a natural normal thing. So, you know, the prosthetics on it for the era were really good.
Yeah, but chimps are good enough actors themselves. They could do it. But I'll tell you a funny story. This is a story I got about 2001: Space Odyssey. This geezer I know, he used to work at Pinewood Studios in the 60s as a carpenter. So like, when they were building sets, he'd knock up the sets for them. Oh, you know, we want the jungle over there or this over there. And he worked as a carpenter there. And he's a bit of a geezer. And there's these girls used to hang around outside the studios. They were young girls, and they were trying to see celebrities, like stars, and have their pictures, you know, or scream over them, actors or whatever, who was popular at the time. And this is in the late 60s. And he went outside, he goes, girls, guess who's we got here today? We've got the Monkees, you know. And they were thinking it's going to be Davy Jones, Peter Tork, you know, I'm a Believer and all that. But it's actually filming the opening scene from 2001. So they were quite disappointed when they actually get inside the studio, But yeah, no, they're prosthetic. I mean, chimps are good enough actors anyway, but you know, you can always tell it's a person. But I still think the original 60s films is what if they were evolved and sort of half human, half ape, that's what they would kind of be like, you know. I still think they got it down to a T. But like I say, two disturbing things they say about being disturbing. Watching it as a kid when it came is when the guy gets the lobotomy, that's quite disturbing. You know, his mate on the ship, and when he sees him and he's got like a big cut on his head and he can't speak. That's quite disturbing. But also got the ending. If you don't know they're on Earth, the ending, and if anyone hasn't seen it, I'll just spoil it for you. But the
spoiler alert.
When he actually realises that spoiler alert, dude.
Spoiler alert, my bad.
I love posting spoiler alerts for shit things on Facebook, like Game of Thrones, and seeing grown men get upset about it. I mean, somebody said to me, for a wind-up, there was a character, I think called Jon Snow or something like this, right? It's called Jon Snow, someone into Game of Thrones, he's like the main character. My mate watched it before anybody else. He says, if you really want to wind people up, he dies in the latest series, post it on Facebook and see how much response you get. I did it for a laugh, and grown men, these are men about 50, sort of saying, you're a wanker, you can fuck off, I hope you die, you've ruined it for me, I've got it all on my series link, I was going to watch it all when I got home, no, you've ruined the whole ending for me. And one bloke, he actually took me as a friend from Facebook. He said it upset him so much, I'd ruined his whole life because I'd revealed a plot in Game of Thrones. I said to him, why don't you buy the fucking book and read it? Because then that's a spoiler in every Waterstones you can get. You know, they sell spoilers in Waterstones. Have a go at Waterstones, not me, man. Yeah, but there's a grown man, and he's a magician, of course, but getting very upset that I spoiled. I mean, if it's a 14-year-old girl, I can understand, or teenage boy getting very upset about someone spoiling a story, but a man in his 50s saying, you know, you've really upset me because you've ruined Game of Thrones.
I got death threats because I said Avatar was shit. Yeah, I saw Avatar and I went on Facebook and went, my one-word review of Avatar, shit. And I got panned. People were slating me. They were like, you don't know. Film. You know, you're going, it was amazing. It's like the best thing I've ever seen in my life. You don't know anything about films. You know, how can you give... And I was like, what the fuck? And these are people that like sort of accepted as being friends, which is why I started having a huge friends call, because I thought, well, if they're going to react over... you know, blue Smurf-like lanky Smurfs riding dragons, what the fuck are they going to do when I put real offensive shit on the internet?
Yeah, just get a life. It's just someone's opinion. It doesn't matter. You know, it really, honestly. But people do. They get so. And you think, what are you? Why are you getting so angry? It's really nothing to get irate about. And you know, there is this issue of people's arrested development emotionally. So you are sometimes just dealing with people who've reverted to childhood reactions. It's just, you know, why would you go? It's just like you say, grown men kicking off about stuff like that. You think, oh, come on, you know, really?
It's grown men. Avatar, when it came out, like they say, everyone was a bit hyping out, saying, "Oh, this it's what's his name, James Cameron or whatever. He's got this film coming out." And I thought, he's done Terminator. He's done quite all right stuff, hasn't he? Aliens and that. And when I saw the trailer for it, I thought, kids film. I might as well bloody watch, Ice Age or Up. It's a kids film. I ain't bored watching that. And then you got people in there like about in their 30s and 40s saying, "Oh, it's amazing." And I thought, it's like someone going on there and saying, Baby Jake is the best TV program, or
it is pretty good.
Is a masterclass.
Baby Jake,
yeah, Uggy. That's where we can insert a bit of Uggy. Because the Americans haven't heard of Baby Jake, Google it or YouTube it, dude. And we put a bit of the song here, the Uggy song. It's mental, yeah. But I'd rather watch that than Avatar, to be fair, and I think it's a bit more sophisticated, to be honest.
And Baby Jake's only on for 5 minutes. But that's all you need. Yeah. That's all you need of Baby Jake, because it is
Avatar, but 3 hours or something like that, isn't it? 3 hours. That's surreal, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a long film.
Yeah, too bloody long. Yeah. I see they've not really.
That time.
Yeah, they've not really hurried in with a prequel for saying how good the reception was. They didn't think, well, let's cash in and knock a sequel out, did they?
They are making one apparently, but they were worried about it clashing with the next Star Wars film, so they're changing the release date of it. Apparently, that's what some grown man was getting upset about on Facebook.
I'd rather nail my balls to a table than watch another Avatar film. In fact, I might do that after this show finishes, just in protest, because I don't need them anymore. I'm not going to have any more kids.
Paint them blue first and draw faces on them.
Yeah, and then nail them to a table.
Then nail to a table. Yeah, I mean, this is what I think of your Avatar.
And any listeners who want to watch that, it'll be on YouTube by the time you listen to this show.
It's called Avatar's Revenge.
Easter treat for you.
In the Easter treat, the Easter treat section.
Instead of Jesus getting nailed up, it's going to be Dan Baines nailing his balls to a table.
I don't see the appeal of these things at all. I mean, I don't go to cinema much these days because most films and Avatars are very puerile. And I did go see Star Wars, and I thought that was good, But the trailers beforehand, I thought, who would want to watch this? There's a Captain America thing, which is really bad. It's like a straight-to-video type thing. And there was these grown men getting really excited about it. And then this Batman versus Superman thing. And it's all really... It's weird, because it's neither or. It's not a kids' film. It's not an adult's film. It's sort of like in between. It's trying to appeal to like the sort of nerds who still read comics, and like that, but also trying to keep the childish side of it as well. But I thought as kids should be watching this stuff. A 6-year-old should be going to cinema and saying, I'm watching Batman or I'm enjoying it. Not a bloody 40-year-old man on his own.
Yeah, shouting, Batman, easy. In the fight.
Exactly. It's I don't get it. It's like I say. It's I think I mentioned this before the show. It's almost like making people more infantile, and as a way of control. I think it's the governments are trying to make people eat a lot of junk food. You know what I mean? It's like McDonald's. It's all comfort food and stuff like this. And they watch everything's been dumbed down to the extent where people are like big babies, really. And I think they like people that way. I think the sort of governments like people to be in a cozy bubble where. What happens in Game of Thrones is more important than what's happening in the world. People that went on about Game of Thrones, I could post a horrible story about something that happened, maybe like someone who got their head cut off in Syria or something like that. The people that are upset about a fictional character being killed in Game of Thrones would not comment on a real life tragedy. They wouldn't say, that's awful or something like that, or I'm really angry about that. But they're angry about somebody who doesn't exist dying in a television program, but not angry about things happening in the real world. That's what baffles me.
It's because most people nowadays have got a better connection with the fictional world than they have the factual world because of just the environment we live in, the way we're fed media.
That is the horror of the virtual reality that we're beginning to live in, though, isn't it? That they are more obsessed with the virtual things than they are with actual real life, and hence, the real world gets ultimately manipulated by those small few select people with a lot of money and power who can do it, because nobody stands up these days. No one looks at it because we're all too busy watching the big flashy fucking lights in the next room. And that's what it is. It is just literally a hypnotic state. So, it's very easy and it's very insidious because it creeps up in you. I've noticed this, that you just get lost in it quite easily. But because life is shit for a lot of people, we do crave escapism, and it's a natural human state. So, the dimensional portal that most people go through on a daily basis is their TV. And you can quite literally, I'm as guilty of it as everybody, because although I don't have a TV as such connected to an area where I'm just like flipping through Sky TV, because I probably would do that if I had it, but I tend to have too much on the go. I'm always doing other things, creative stuff, or you know,
Yeah.
never,
Sky
never
TV
really sort of sat in front of the TV.
Sky TV is
Unless
basically
I'm
paying
pissed.
about £60 a month it takes you longer to realise there's nothing on worth watching. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all Sky TV is.
So it's more
60 quid.
expensive.
It take longer to realise there's nothing worth watching. You know what I mean? That's the thing.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, the only time I was really cried at a film or character when I was about 4 years old. I went to see Jungle Book, and there's a scene where, you know, with Baloo Bear, they think he's dead, and he's lying there in a pile, and you know, Mowgli's crying, and Baloo, and as a kid, I was bawling my eyes out. I was really upset by it because there's a big bear in it. And he sings songs, you know, and then he gets up and it's oh, he's still alive, you know. But I was 4 years old, you know. But these people are like 40 years old and they're crying over Jon Snow in Game of Thrones and things like this. I think when I was a kid, you have to understand. You're a kid, you get really into it, you think it's real, you know. As far as you're concerned, it's real, it's happening, you know. When you're an adult, you know that it's actors playing a role, you know, it's a story someone's written. So to get so that upset about it, it's just crazy, man.
I mean, without wanting to open a whole can of worms and go on for another hour, but you know, I think Nathan will back me up on this, and we've kind of touched on it in the past. Is that we are fed such an artificial world through the media that the actual harsh reality of life has seen an increase in mental health issues because people can't cope with real things anymore. Because when they are faced with it, the whole fucking world collapses because it's not something you can, you know, flick onto another channel or swipe it off your screen and see something else. You know, it's So people do develop an overly inflated egos as well, and this is something which is a strange manifestation because, you know, there's also this kind of like when people have quite kind of damaged egos, they all you know, it's beginning to sort of like ripple out, and so you're getting this massive gamut of personality disorders, but it's just that's what everything's getting lumped under now. But really what you have is people that are struggling to interface with the actual reality in which they exist, and you know, they'd rather sort of like get themselves in a complete state and ruminate about the thing rather than actually deal with it, which is actually not that difficult in the most parts. You know, life is just a test, really. We do have to learn and we do have to navigate through it, but whilst they're being so distracted by this kind of like luciferic false reality, which is what I mean. This is interesting because a lot of it is the internet, isn't it? And you know, when who is it who came up? It was it Nostradamus that came up with the 666 thing. Well, the World Wide Web, www, numerology, W is defined by the number 6. All right. Okay.
So 66666.
Yeah.
666 is the start of every address on the internet.
Yeah, and it's the internet is the devil. That's what it is. Kids, don't go on the internet apart from to listen to the Mystic Menagerie podcast.
Yes,
exactly.
And danbaines.com.
danbaines.com.
Yeah. Right, I think that was one hell of a great Fortean Oracle session. We went from dimensional portals to chimpanzees, Planet of the Apes, and through to mental health. So again, we've got
Lou Reed
and Lou Reed. Yeah, so
and Lou Reed. And who is Freddie Valentine?
No one's ever going to know that is the world's biggest mystery. So as long as he never works at the BBC, he'll be fine.
It out. They're like, oh, they'll be like, it's really nice to see Paul Weller. He's changed a bit, isn't he? And
Paul Weller looks like Doc Cotton these days.
He does a bit, yeah.
He's like one of those men you used to see in the pub, right? You know, with the same sort of cool hairstyle they had in the 70s, but they still got a grey version of it in the 90s. You know, like you used to get someone that had a glam rock type, you know, a Buffon type thing, but it was grey.
Yeah, like when you see Teddy Boys in the 80s, you'd be like, oh.
Grey Chris.
Yeah.
See, a skinhead, it's okay. A skinhead can still look the same as he did in the 80s, do you know what I mean? Apart from having wrinkles. But besides, like Paul Weller, it's still got the same 60s sort of mod haircut, but it's grey. And he looks now like Doc Cotton.
Yeah, poor old Paul Weller.
Yeah. Weller, ooh.
Yeah, that's entertainment.
It is, yeah.
Oh, stop now. Stop.
I'm going to be
any more news of the world. Currently.
I'm hungry. I'm going to be eating. I'm hungry. I'm going to be eating trifles after the show.
Eating trifles. Freddie,
when you come up for a field trip, are you going to have to get a big plastic bag for the afro? I mean, it's going to be necessary, isn't it? Are you allowed out?
It's got its own postcode. It's got its own. I'm a recluse. I'm a bit of a Sid Barrett type recluse. who only goes out to buy cigarettes or to do seances. But yeah, when I come out, the Afro has his own postcode, so beware.
Are we going to literally put a blanket on him, Dan, because he can't be seen by the public?
I can't. You know, well, I'll be his chauffeur. I'll be his bodyguard and chauffeur. So
that sounds like a plan, doesn't it? Freddie.
Anyone wants Freddie, they've got to go through me first.
Exactly.
Or if they're fit, I'll go through them first. Cool. On that note, I think Freddie's got to disappear off somewhere on an urgent mission in the next sort of minute and a half. Again. Yeah, yep. So there's a crisis somewhere. So Freddie's got to chip off. So I think what we'll do is we'll take a break and then we'll be back in a moment.
It all come about one day in a friend's squat. I wrote down all the names I was known as, and I was known as many.
My name is Arthur. I am he, once and future born to be.
And he said, you're not King John. I said, no, and I'm not Mad Dog, and I'm not Bacardi, I'm not any of the other names that are on there. He said, no, I mean, you're not King John, you're King Arthur, the once and future king.
He travelled the country, he dressed as he dressed, I discovered. And the next time I saw him, he was 60 feet up a tree at Newbury.
Some people treat me as royalty, for want of a better word, because it's in their nature to, and it gives them something to do it. I don't mind anybody treat me in any particular way.
I'm one of Arthur's favourite, a tin Frey Bentos pie. You know, a packet of Smash, a tub of Bisto granules, you know, underpants.
Hello and welcome back to the Mystic Menagerie podcast. And again, we've got a wonderful interview here. We've got a very special guest on the show today. We have the wonderful King Arthur Uther Pendragon.
Hello, I'm here.
So Arthur, it's great to have you on the show. And you know, and people know you as being like, you know, the king of the Druids in the UK. You're considered to be, aren't you? Really?
Well, I'm considered to be a lot of things, but like I said once to Clive Anderson on TV, you can call me what you like so long as it's not too early in the morning.
Excellent. And you've got an interesting life. We sort of talk a bit about your. I mean, your life is fascinating. You are King Arthur, and people who go to Stonehenge, you know, particularly solstice, will see you there. You know, you're a known figure in the UK. Everybody knows you've been on TV a lot, and you're known as someone who's preserving Stonehenge. You fight for Stonehenge, don't you? It's something that you believe in a lot.
Yeah. Well, I'm a pagan priest, and I'm a full-time druid, and I spend a lot of time down at Stonehenge. I took the government to the European Court back in '99 to free it up for solstices and equinoxes, and I fight for truth, honour, and justice, as does my order. I mean, what you've got to realise is there's, as I see it, 3 Arthurs and 3 Arthurian ages. You've got a sort of pre-Roman archetypal Welsh, and then you've got a post-Roman Dark Age British, and you've got a post-Thatcher, and I'm the post-Thatcher, and so I'm known for fighting in many arenas, including, you know, against roads that were being built unnecessarily in the 90s. I spent a lot of time up the trees at Newbury. I mean, what happened was I was forced with a question, you know, because a friend of mine, a colleague, another senior druid, went along and done a blessing for the trees that were due for, you know, demolition, as it were. They were going to be pulled down. So that posed the question to me, you know, who's the real druid? The guy on the ground in the white frock or the guy up the tree protecting it? Well, I didn't find out until they went to evict the site where I was, and I found out, actually, it's the guy up the tree wearing the white frock, because I found myself climbing a beech tree, and 4 hours later got evicted, and that was it. Then me and my order, we became the political arm. We're the warrior druids. You know, we're not learned druids, we're warrior druids. We're out there and we're fighting injustices. We're all sworn to fight for truth, honour and justice. A lot of the druids initially, you know, back in the 90s, I'm well known and respected now, but initially they were saying, how the hell can you be a druid, you know, when we believe in justice and you know, and you're always in court. I said, look, I can't find a better place to fight for justice than in a court of law. That's why I get arrested. If the law is unjust, then fight it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that was my form of druidry then, and it still is now. I mean, we still do demos. We still do a lot of protest work, and if something's wrong, we will stand up and shout about it. A lot of the Druids will say, well, we're apolitical, we don't get involved. I'm not apolitical, I'm very bloody political. I mean, I have stood in the last 5 general elections as an independent candidate. I beat a national party in the last place. That was the BNP at the first time I ran. Second time around, I beat the leader of a national party, albeit the Montserravian Loonies, but I beat a leader. I mean, it was funny. His claim to fame was, I tell you what, Arthur, he said, I've never been beaten. I've never come last. I've often been beaten, but I've never come last. I said, you will this time. I think I beat him by about 30 votes, but he did. I knocked him in the last place. I once beat a victory to last place because he stood against me saying there's too many isms in this country, you know, including paganism. And I said, oh, hang on a minute, I'm going to stand against you. He was an independent conservative. He came last. Last time, I stood here in Salisbury because I live in Salisbury, near to be close to Stonehenge. And last time I ran, I virtually trebled my vote from the time I went before. So I do all right. You know, there was 750 odd people wanted me as their MP for Salisbury. You know, it's a safe Tory seat, but that doesn't matter. It's a way of standing up and being counted. You know, so yes, I'm very political, and I'll run for election. I'll do anything. I mean, a lot of people say that Arthur, well, he's a bloody media tart, but it doesn't matter what they think, because if I can get the media involved to the serious issues, that's what counts. I mean, once at Crystal Palace, I called a press conference, got all the press there, and purposefully didn't turn up. This was at Crystal Palace at a demonstration because we were trying to protect it from being built on. You know, we were up the trees. And when the press come, they said, well, where's Arthur? No, well, of course, they had to report on what I wanted them to report on, which was, you know, the campaign. And around the same time, funnily enough, done a pilot down here at Stonehenge for a comic who wanted to do, it was Ali G, yeah? It was before anyone had heard of him, before he'd ever got a series, and it was his pilot. So he asked me, or people asked me, if I'd go to Stonehenge and do the pilot for him. I said, yeah, I'll do the pilot, on condition that if he gets the series, he turns up at a protest site, and he did, and that was Crystal Palace as well. So when you see Ali G turning up at Crystal Palace, the deal behind it was, I'll help you out, you help me out. So yeah, I'm a bit of a media tart, but the reason I am is to highlight the cause. I don't need much more fame. Come on, everybody's heard of King Arthur. You know what I mean? I don't need the fame. But if I can use that fame to highlight some of the causes that we fight for in the interests of virtues of truth, honour and justice, then I will. And incidentally, I'll make this offer to either of you, or both of you. If you can swear to truth, honour and justice and repeat some words after me, I'll knight you now with a virtual sword over the virtual internet. How's that sound?
Sounds fantastic. I can do that.
Okay, then both of you repeat after me to speak the truth.
To speak the truth.
To honour your spoken word.
To honour your spoken word.
And to be just and fair in all your dealings.
And to be just
and fair in all my dealings.
All right, that's truth, honour and justice, or in Welsh, Wyalith and Radith a there. I knight you, subject to confirmation by the sword Excalibur, you are Quest Knights, loyal Arthurian warband. You've joined the ranks of people like Lionel Fanthorn, Reverend Lionel Fanthorn, Church of Wales, he's a member of my order. Johnny Rotten, you might have heard of.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He's a member of my order. Cage fighter. Who's the most famous cage fighter you know of?
Alex Reed.
That's the one, then. He's a member of my order as well. So we've got some people from because being a Druid order, obviously, we have a number of bards, ovates, druids, vates, and there are different styles within the Druid order. And from the bardic level, of course, you know, we have not only poets and musicians, but, you know, media stars as well, and rock stars. So, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And there are some other people in other orders, for instance. I mean, who you may have heard of. So there's quite a few famous druids, really.
I feel
fantastic.
I feel honoured.
We are honoured.
Yes.
But you got to remember that my order isn't like any other druid order, because we're the warrior arm of the druid movement. Basically, we're the warrior arm of the modern druid movement. So we live now, but we draw our inspiration from old times. I mean, it's like the whole Arthur thing. Like I said, there's sort of 3 Arthurs, 3 different ages. But there's not a lot of difference, if you think about it, between what I'm doing now and what the ancient Arthur was doing now. I believe the same spirit dwells within all. But, you know, I'm not here to convince anyone that I'm the reincarnation of Arthur Pendragon, or even that reincarnation actually exists. But I am here to say this is the modern Arthur, this is what he's doing. And what he's doing is not a lot of difference, except, of course, it is the 21st century, so I've got an iron steed now. But what's a biker if not a modern knight of the road? You know what I mean? It's all exactly the same things,
certainly
transferred in different times. And you've got to remember, because Arthur is a Time Lord. Because Arthur, long before Schwarzenegger ever thought of it, was the first one to say, "I'll be back."
He was.
And this is me.
You are.
Back.
And you're back. You are back.
I'm most definitely back. And
So
like I say, I'm a regular pain in the behind to Her Majesty's government. Not only have I taken them several times through the Royal Courts of Justice for judicial review, I've taken them to the European Court at Strasbourg, and I continued to fight. I mean, some of the fighting we're doing at the moment in and around Stonehenge concerns ancient human remains. We don't think that they should be in museums. We think they should be reburied. So from that point of view, we've got a campaign, and the buzzword for that is "let those we lay to rest stay to rest." So we're fighting to have them reinterred at Stonehenge, because we don't see any difference between modern dead, ancient dead, or any other religion, you know. And in Britain, of course, human remains are protected under law, unless, of course, they're prior to a certain date, and they're pre-Christian remains, in which case you can throw them in a bin or put them in a museum or do what you like. So that's a law we're fighting to change. We're also fighting, as I say, for the repatriation of certain human remains at Stonehenge, and we're fighting all the plans that English Heritage have just come up with to sanitise the solstice. They want a cap on numbers, they want a ban on alcohol, they want a car parking charges, you know, and none of this should be happening. What should be happening is 4 times a year, and that's all we're asking for, 4 times a year, the longest and shortest, and the 2 equal days. 4 times a year, we should be allowed to go to Stonehenge and worship as we see fit. They shouldn't be able to tell us how we should worship or when we can worship. And that is why I took them to the European Court in 1999, and it was freed up. The solstice is an equinox. Now they're trying to clamp down on it. So we're going to oppose them every step of the way. I tell you, there's going to be a big fight happening here at Stonehenge, and it's going to be English Heritage versus the mad Druid and his folk, really.
Yeah, and it's right for you to stand up for that. I mean, Stonehenge, when I was a kid, Stonehenge was free. There was no visitor centre, no car parking. You just drove up, you went up to Stones, and it's completely free in the 70s.
Yeah, that's right. My earliest memory, actually, was when I must have been, it must have been 64 and I must have been 10, because we went on a family holiday, and we went to Minehead to Butlins, you know, as sort of family holidays in the 60s. And on the way down there, we stopped for a picnic at a few stones in the middle of Salisbury Plain at Stonehenge. I don't remember much about Butlins, but it obviously made an impression on me, because I do remember Stonehenge. And so we stopped to picnic there, you know, and that's how it was. A few rocks in the middle of Salisbury Plain, as the Americans would say. I keep telling them it's not Rockhenge, it's Stonehenge. They're not rocks, they're stones. But the reality is there they were in the middle of Salisbury Plain, and you happened upon them. You either happened upon them by happenstance, or you were meant to find them, and that's how it should have been, and it should have been left. But of course, English Heritage brought most of the problems associated with Stonehenge upon themselves. By the way, they market it so aggressively abroad. And now you go down there, it's just bus after bus after bus of foreign tourists coming in, and it's ka-ching, 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 and it's all about making money, and that's not what it's about. It is still, for 4 times a year, at solstices and equinoxes, it is still a living, working temple. There are still druids going there, such as myself, leading ceremonies on the longest, the shortest, and the equal day. So for 4 times a year, at the moment, we still get there and we still worship. They're trying to sanitise it, and we're opposing them.
Brilliant, and so you should. So, Arthur, how did Johnny Rotten, John Lydon get involved? When did you meet him? What happened there?
Oh, I met him down at Glastonbury at Arthur's grave, actually. He was doing a tour for Belgian TV. Now, here's something that is really amusing. So he's doing this tour of Britain with a Belgian associate for Belgian TV, and they're touring Britain. And one of the places they've gone is down at Glastonbury. Now, about a week before this, the New Year's Honours list has come out, and Mick Jagger's on it, right? So Mick Jagger's on the New Year's Honours list. He's getting a knighthood. So anyway, we're at Arthur's supposed grave, and that's why they got in touch with me, because they wanted me to come along and talk about, their supposed grave, which, funnily enough, somebody else in rock world has just been filmed there. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But anyway, Johnny Rotten and I had a discussion, and afterwards we got on really well. And so I knighted him, and he knelt down beneath the sword, and I put it on one shoulder, then the other, and then the head, doing truth, honour and justice, as I will with you when I meet you in person, and I'll do it with the sword to reaffirm what we've done today.
Brilliant.
And he gets up and he turns round to the camera, live on Belgian TV. He says, "Fuck Jagger, I got the real deal." Typical Johnny Rotten, but yeah, great, yeah.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So there's another big rock star you're working with. We can't say too much about it, but you can let us know who you've been involved with lately, Arthur.
Yeah, I've been doing some filming with another rock star recently, and it's coming out, and you'll see all about it on the History Channel shortly when it comes out. Keep your eye out for a history programme featuring Ozzy Osbourne, because he comes to Stonehenge, and during that he meets me, and well, I can't really say any more about it, but keep your eye on it when it comes on.
We certainly will, and our listeners will certainly look in. Yeah, it's brilliant. Arthur, in this sort of 70s, you was a biker, weren't you?
Yeah, I still am. Still riding a motorbike now.
Fantastic. So your modern steed is a metal one.
Yeah, it's an iron steed. I mean, it's if you look at the historic Arthur, what are you looking at? Right. There's a saying, right, and it's King Arthur and the Knights at a Round Table. Well, that's Walt Disney. Forget that. So substitute the words in your mind's eye, and instead of king, think chieftain, and instead of knight, which were far later than Dark Age Britain, instead of knight, think of horseman, and think of mounted warrior, right? So then you're closer to what it was really like. And when you think of mounted warriors, what you've actually got, you've got Arthur and his group, latterly known as King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, looking back at them. But all they were at the time was a light cavalry unit flying around the country, helping the other chieftains attain victories. And so not a lot of difference to a modern bike club, really, isn't it?
No. Yeah, exactly. It's very similar.
Yeah, you get all the bike clubs going around doing charities, don't you? So they're helping out people all over the country, doing different things for cancer research, and you see them all the time doing sponsored bike runs. That's right. And so there's not a lot of difference. And so what we're doing now, okay, now though, we're challenging our government most of the time. I mean, it was always said that Arthur and his gang, if you like, or the Knights of the Round Table, would always return when Britain was in its time of greatest need. And it was always thought that would be a military response to an external enemy. Well, it's not. Britain, like the rest of the world, is definitely in its time of greatest need, but it's environmental, and it's environmental stuff that we're fighting for most of the time. We're fighting for what we see as the goddess, from a pagan point of view, i.e. the planet itself. Rather like the Eastern Gaia concept. The planet is an entity in its own right, and we are standing up to fight for it. Hence the work we were doing
at Newbury, hence the fact that we're standing out against the possibility of fracking at the moment. You know, it's so bloody stupid. It's man's greed that is going to bring this planet down. It's man's greed. You know, it ain't the animal kingdom. It ain't the herbs, you know.
No.
If anyone is causing a problem, and it's not just Britain. Now, so if you take Arthur and his guys have come back when Britain needs them most, right, fair enough, then it figures that other people, other heroes from other mythologies have come back for their tribes and for their people worldwide.
Yes.
So they've all come back now, because now it's a time of greatest need, because it's now that the planet's in most danger, and it's in danger from us. So we've actually come back to stand up for truth, honour and justice. Stand up against ourselves, mankind, if you like, for truth, honour and justice. And that's what we're doing. So I don't see it strange at all that, you know, I should be back now and doing it, because this is, you know, if you're going to come back when Britain's at its time of greatest need, well, it's got to be now, and I don't mean anything to do with Osborne and the bloody economics either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I certainly vote for you. I think you need someone like you in number 10 to sort this country out. I think you are the man to do it. You're the man for the job.
Yeah, well, I always stand as an independent because I don't believe in party politics. Really, I think it's what I believe in is what we should have is people representing people by, for, and of the people, which is the real idea of democracy. Where you'd have, for instance, you'd have someone from Liverpool representing Liverpool. And he's fighting for what Liverpool wants. He ain't fighting for what the Tories want, or what Labour want, or what any party wants, or what the Greens want. He's fighting for the town he represents. And that's what you'd have if everybody was independent. You'd have them all batting their own corner for their own hometown. And that's how it should be. I mean, let's face it. Same with sport. You know, I've got nothing against the way it's gone, but wouldn't it be more pure? Wouldn't it be better if, you know, Liverpool fielded a team from Liverpool, etc., etc. And that's going back to how it should be. And that's going back, as I said before, Dark Age Britain, going back, forget king, think chieftain. That's going back to the tribes and how it was. And all the tribes got together, and all Arthur was the Pendragon. And Efen, coming from the Welsh, Pendragon means head dragon. He was the battle chieftain. That's what he was. A bit like in North American, Native American culture, Crazy Horse was the battle chieftain. The paramount chief might have been Sitting Bull, but, you know, the battle chieftain was Crazy Horse. And that was a specific job that somebody did. It wasn't a title that was handed down to them like you think of king these days. But no, it was a battle chieftain. It was the best person for the job. And what the ancient Arthurs did was lead a cavalry unit around the country and basically fight injustice wherever they saw it. So that's one of the reasons why you get so many places claiming to be Camelot. For the same reason. You see, Arthur and his guys, right, would turn up to help the local chieftain, who later has been called a king in the 14th century and the 11th century, but they're looking back writing about him, he wasn't a king at the time, you know what I mean? Yeah. So the local chieftain would be aided by Arthur and the light cavalry unit. And then Arthur would say to him, or I'd say to him, or someone would say to him, or one of my knights would say to him, as they've been called since, but he'd be one of my guys at the time, we'd say to him, basically, do yourself a favour, build yourself a hill fort there. And of course, later it would be known as Arthur's Fort. And later still, they'd call it Camelot. So that's why there's so many places claiming to be Camelot, because it was a nomadic court. There never was a specific place, because all Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table was a light cavalry unit that were used to basically win battles, because there wasn't such a unit anywhere else.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'd rather have a Camelot in every town than a Starbucks, that's for sure, Arthur.
Oh, definitely.
So, Arthur, you know, as a Druid, I mean, how long have you been a Druid? When did you first become a Druid?
I've always been a Druid, I just never knew it. I didn't know I was a Druid till I met other Druids. And what happened was I was at the top of Glastonbury Tor, met with the other Druids in 1990. Up until then, I thought I was a weirdo. I thought I got my own belief structure. I believe in this, and this. Got talking to them, and they said, "You're a bloody Druid." I said, "Well, Yeah, I suppose I am. But I didn't realise, and I just thought it was me. But then I realised there are other people that believe in the same thing. But you've got to realise that although I'm a pagan priest, I'm predominantly a Druid, which is different in as much as it's not a religion. Druidry is a philosophical standpoint rather than being a religion. You can have a Christian Druid, you can have a Buddhist Druid, you know what I mean? Druidry is a philosophical standpoint. A Druid, and when you look at the ancient Druids, the proto-Druids who built Stonehenge, the ancient Druids, and that's one of the things that comes through with the Arthurian myth, that they couldn't Christianise. They Christianised everything they could when they were writing about the sort of Dark Age Arthur. But I had Merlin, obviously a Druid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's your archetypal bloody Druid. You know, they could not change that. They couldn't write him out on a story, so they didn't try to Christianise him. They just changed everything around it, didn't they?
Yeah.
But, you know, history, when you look back on things, it's amusing, because I know and you know, let's say something occurs at a party. If you've got 7 people there, you've got 7 different witnesses, 7 different views of what happened. And it's exactly the same. But you've got to remember, of course, with history, with great history, as we can call it, it's always written by the victors. And so it's always biased. You know, just like, I don't know, if you're reading the Times or you're reading the Guardian, they're going to have their own editorial biases, and they're going to report the same things rather differently. And so that's what you've always had. So, you know, whether it's myth, whether it's magic, whether it's legend, whether it's historic, doesn't matter. What matters is, as I said earlier, there was a pre-archetypal Arthur. There was a pre-Roman Arthur in these lands, these Isle of the Mighty, this Britain that we now call it. There was most definitely a Dark Age post-Roman Arthur who brought the tribes together, and there's now a post-statue one that's doing exactly the same. So that's all there is to it, really. Now, whether that's mythical, legendary, or whatever, doesn't matter. It's happening. It's real.
I agree.
I've got, you know, on my passport, it reads Arthur Uther Pendragon. That is my name. And I'm generally known to the police and everybody else as Arthur Pendragon, or as King Arthur. I'll tell you a funny thing. I had a right to 10 Downing Street. I was writing to them complaining about the, you know, 500 deposit that it cost me every time I run for Parliament. So I was writing about that. But I'd written to them previously, yeah? And because I'm King Arthur Pendragon, they thought, well, he's not our bloody king, so we won't call him king, we'll just call him, you know, business-like, we'll use his surname. So they wrote back to me and just as, Dear Pendragon, blah, blah, blah. So I had a laugh with them, and I sent this letter to the person that had written to me, which was a Humphrey Crumb Ewing, who was some personal secretary of somebody at Downing Street. And I said, you refer to me as Pendragon. I don't mind the honour. I'm just wondering whether you bothered to tell Queen Elizabeth II you put me in charge of her armed forces, because Pendragon actually means head of the forces of the Isle of the Mighty. Of course, they never answered the letter, right? They never answered it. So when I wrote to them later, right, about 5 years later, saying, about this deposit, they had to answer me as I was an independent candidate. But because I'd wound them up, and I thought they'd just put that letter in the bin, you know what I mean? Then they haven't answered it. Well, they must have filed it away somewhere, because they wrote back and they sent it to me sisters, right, which was my postal address at the time, addressed to the occupier. I got them that wound up, they wouldn't even give me a name. I got a letter from 10 Downing Street, the occupier.
And also, you don't. In a lot of things, you've changed something. I mean, because of yourself. Now, Druids, when they're in prison, can wear their robes, can't they?
Yeah, I didn't win that one, but that was that was by default. You see, I was a remand prisoner because I was refusing the bail conditions at Newbury, so I was in prison on remand. Now, the law says you can wear your own clothes if you're on remand. You don't have to wear prison uniform. So I said, well, right, I'm wearing my own robes. They said, no, your clothes aren't suitable because they wouldn't let me wear the Druid robes. So I ended up naked on the block, right? Fighting for the right to wear. And eventually they said, okay, you can wear your own robes in the privacy of your own cell. And of course that made a new Home Office ruling, and the Home Office ruling is now that if you're a pagan, a Wiccan or a Druid, you can wear your robe in yourself.
Brilliant.
But that came about because I said, well, if I can't bloody wear me robes, because they forcibly removed them, I said, if I can't wear me robes, I'm not wearing your bloody uniform, that's it, naked. So we go on the block there. So, now listen to this. I was remanded in custody for trespassing assembly, a new offence that they'd invented under the criminal justice bill, yeah, which I also challenged.
Yeah.
And even though trespassing assembly, I was the first person ever to be charged, I was the first not guilty as well. So I got off, and funnily enough, the guy that got me off was a young barrister called Keir Starmer. He went on to become the DPP, because that's what they do in Britain. If they can't beat you, they suck you into their system, and you can work for them. You know what I mean? So that's what happened to him. He's now, incidentally, a Labour MP up in London. But anyway, so he got me off, so I was the first arrest on this. But the point I'm making is, there I am in prison, and I'm only in prison because I'm refusing their bail conditions, and I'm only charged with the trespassing offence. I'm not charged with anything serious. I'm not charged with anything that's even going to give me a prison sentence at the end of it. And they have put me on the block, right? Which is the worst they can do to anybody. And there I am, naked, on the block, not even getting food. They said I was on a hunger strike. I wasn't. I was just refusing to come out and get me food. I wasn't refusing to come out and get me food. They wouldn't let me out because I was naked. And the worst thing the British penal system can do to you is put you on the block, right? Which is what they did to me for trespassing. Oh, funny enough, bung me in Belmont, so, and some little guy, right, with a rather swarthy complexion, pushed his way in front of me, and this was when I was up over Crystal Palace, so again I'm refusing bail conditions. And anyway, this guy pushes in front of me, and I said, "Oi, get to the back of the queue," he said. "You know what I'm in here for?" I said, "No." He said, "Terrorism." I said, "Well, I'm in for trespass now. Get to the back of the fucking I don't think he really understood what I said, but he went to the back of the queue.
Oh, fantastic. Arthur, as a druid, you spend a lot of time at Stonehenge and sacred sites. Have you had any paranormal experiences or anything strange, otherworldly happen?
Yeah, my whole life has been a collection of paranormal and strange experiences. But a lot of it, right, and this is where it goes back to coincidence is no coincidence. A lot of it is real. I'll give you an example, okay? I went to change my name on a day in time. So I went down to the solicitor, said, I want to change my name to Arthur Uther Pendragon. They said, all right, come in Wednesday, right? This is what they said. So I went in Wednesday, and I looked at the document, and they put a spelling mistake on it. So it said Arthur Uther Pendragon instead of Uther. I said, just initially, I was like, no, it's a legal document. You'll have to come back tomorrow. So I came back tomorrow. The tomorrow was the 11th of June in 1986. That's when I changed my name, yeah?
Yep.
So anyway, I'm looking at Allmore's Almanac the following year, and he says the Queen's official birthday, 11th of June. I thought, wow, that's a coincidence. That's the same day. And it was a full moon, and it was a general election, right? So what happened was Thatcher called an election for that particular 11th of June, which was 87. So anyway, I then came across a book about the whole Arthur thing and Glastonbury, right? And it was quoting from something that had just come to life that was written in the 14th century, and it was the supposed grave where they took Arthur away from, yeah? And it said they took him out, and this is what it said. It said, and hard by, hard meaning close by, and hard by a new marvel arose, a walnut tree that flowered but once a year, St Barnabas's Day, the 11th of June. And I thought, that's why they made that type of mistake, because I had to change it on 11th, not 10th. Coincidence or magic? Well, you decide.
I think it's magic. It's too much to be a coincidence.
Definitely.
Exactly. So there is a lot of magic, and there is a lot of what you call paranormal, or what they call supernature, or supernormal. But it's not. I mean, there is no thing. It's not paranormal. It's just normal that we don't understand yet.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's nature that we don't, and natural. It's not supernatural. It's natural, but we don't understand it yet. So it's a wrong term. I don't like the term supernatural. I just think it's nature that we don't understand yet.
It is.
And
I think
ironically yourself.
Sorry,
Dan. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, you go, Freddie.
Arthur, have you ever thought of have you got your own Merlin or somebody else like yourself?
Yeah, lots. There's, you know, there's only one Arthur around, but there's a few Merlins and a few claimants to it. But in reality, going back to what we were saying in coincidence, right? In 1990, when I went to the top of the Glastonbury tour and I met with the Glastonbury Order of Druids, of which I am now Honoured Pendragon, the head of the Glastonbury Order of Druids is a guy who's an archdruid. It's called Rollo Morfling. Morfling, Maughfling, is a Saxon corruption of what was Merlin in Norman French and or Maedrin in Welsh. So he's of the name Merlin. That's the name. So if there's a contender for Merlin, he's got to be a strong one.
Do you know any budding Morgan Le Fays? That's what I'd like to know.
Oh, I bloody well do, and she's quite a cow. She also is a politician, only she's of a political party, and I'm not saying no more about her.
All struck a nerve.
There's a few of those, isn't there? It could be any number of people. So, Arthur, you've got a campaign at Stonehenge. How's the campaign going with the English heritage, isn't it? You're fighting for justice here.
Yeah, I'm fighting them over a number of different things, and it's slow, but it's always been slow. But then it's not as slow as it was when I started. Because when I started in '86, it took me 14 years to overthrow their exclusion zone, and that culminated in Strasbourg in a High Court case in '99. And what happened at the end of that, I mean, what happened for 14 years, I got arrested every year. I went to Stonehenge, they said, you know the story, Arthur, one more step, you're next. I said, yeah, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? So I spent, 14 years, I spent nearly every year, sometimes this, in Salisbury police cells. But, I've never arrested with malice. Me and the police get on fine, and always did, but it was always, we'll argue this in court. So eventually it got heard in Strasbourg, and they said, well, actually, Her Majesty's government are able, and this was by a majority, this wasn't even a unanimous verdict, they said they're right, they are able to put that exclusion zone in place that stops you getting to Stonehenge, but, and this is the rub, but only if they can prove it's in the interest. For its instance, so it took me 14 years to break it, I broke it, and now we get there. So, and like I said to someone from the press, I'm a druid. I've got this lifetime, the next, and the one after that, if need be. I'm going to win. Don't matter how long it takes.
You'll soon grind them down.
Oh, yes. And I will. You will be reading about many victories from Arthur Pendragon down at Stonehenge and other places, because that's one thing I do. I fight to win.
Yeah. And of course, this is the show. You got a Facebook page, haven't you, Arthur? You're with Modern Technology at the moment as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got a Facebook page. I've also got a website, which is www.warband.org.uk. And Arthur Pendragon on Facebook. I'm also Druid King Arthur on Twitter. To me, it's just another medium. You've got to use it. You've got to get word out there. You've got to let people know. If you're hacked off with something, the first thing you got to do is let people know. That's called ranting. But then you got to do something about it, and I'm often doing something about it. Like I say, with the warrior arm of the druids, we're the guys who are the frontline troops, and we love it, and we would never it any other way. All the rest of the druids eventually begrudgingly like us. But since the 90s, I've been taking them, kicking and screaming and dragging them into battle, and that's what I do. I'm a battle chieftain. And that's what the ancient Arthurs were as well, a battle chieftain. And that's how I want to be remembered. I want to be remembered, if there's one epitaph I want, it's no regrets.
Excellent.
Brilliant.
That's what the Walker brothers sang about as well, of course, wasn't it?
Mm.
Excellent. Arthur, even around in the 70s, reading about about yourself, because you've been to lots of, you're around in the festivals, the height of everything else. You was at the early Glastonbury's, weren't you? The Windsor, Rock and Blues Festival and everything, weren't you? You was all around the whole scene there as well. That must have been great times.
Yeah. I mean, back in the 70s, I was a festival goer, a party goer. We were having a great time. And we were going around on motorbikes, having a laugh. Now I'm going around on motorbikes, doing what I can to change the country, probably to bring back some of the good times as well, because we've got too staid,
yes,
and too sanitised, and there's too much health and safety. I mean, it's gone ridiculous. At the same time, I will fight for the truth. I will fight for honour, and I will fight for justice. Now, honour really means if you say you're going to do it. Justice, well, that's like beauty. It's, in the eyes of the beholder. It's not my justice. It's not your justice. It's everybody's justice that we're fighting for. And any injustice, I mean, to me, if you're going to fight for justice, that means you have to oppose injustice. So, the Druid should spend as much time speaking out against injustices as they do speaking for what should be done.
Definitely, Arthur. Yeah, excellent. And Arthur, it's been wonderful having you on the show. And have you got any final words you'd like to give back to the listeners here? Any message you'd like to give out to anybody?
Yeah. I'd like to end with where it began, if you like. This was something I wrote in 1986 when I changed my name. And it's simple, really. My name is Arthur. I am he. Once and future, born to be Celtic chieftain, knight of old, I am the story as foretold. Loyal knights that come to me, bowing to their destiny, where'er we find them, we'll right wrong, for this must always be our song, the cauldron, and the cross unite Christian and pagan, join our fight, reunite the Celtic creed in its time of greatest need. Arrived from Avalon, 87, Arthur Pendragon, June 11. I even put the date at the end. Or, wonderful. In another tongue, which is basically, my name's Arthur, I'm a Druid, and I fight for truth, for honour, and for justice. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Arthur. Wonderful. Truth, honour, and justice. It's been wonderful having you on the show today. Blessings to you, Arthur, and hail King Arthur.
Well, that brings us to the end of another Mystic Menagerie podcast, and that was probably one of the most enjoyable I've ever done in terms of interviews. Don't you reckon, Freddie?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, they were brilliant guests, fantastic interviews, and people with a lot of interesting stuff to say, you know what I mean? So it's we've covered a lot of ground, and
we're getting some names under our belt now, definitely. We sort of approach people and they surprisingly say yes when we want to interview them, whereas before, 12 months ago, 16 months ago, people would probably have said no, but now we've got quite a substantial following and a lot of support behind us. It's getting to the point now where we can say, well, yeah, actually, if you want an interview, we'll interview, and they say yes, which is great, because it's they scratch our back and we scratch theirs.
Yeah, and it's great to get interesting people with interesting stories to start on the show as well, and when I say Matt and Arthur, both are very interesting people, unique people with fascinating lives. So it's great to be able to chat to them, and everyone hopefully enjoy the interviews with them as well, because we certainly enjoy doing them. So we're sure you've enjoyed listening to them. So
yeah, so I mean, next month, well, the next show will be out this month as well, so in effect you're going to get 2 shows in April, because this one was meant to be out in March had we not had all the technical difficulties. But we've got quite a bit lined up for show number 20, which we will be revealing over the next few weeks. But I reckon the show will be out just at the very end of April. Gives us a bit of time to get the material together, and also see if we can get any last minute interviews in the bag.
Yeah, definitely, the big 2-0. So we're going to continue this year to bring as much interesting stuff, keep the show as fresh and different as we can, and we never run out of subjects. You know, so many things we can talk about, and we continue to do so. So, and also, like I say, if you have enjoyed the show and you want to support us, Patreon, go to our website and have a look at the Patreon or via PayPal, as Dan said at the start of the show, and please support us, because your support does mean a lot to us. And those who do support the show, you know, we thank you every single time for this, because it's something that we really value, and it keeps us going, and it keeps the show being what it is, you know, providing entertainment and interesting stuff you listen to. So that's what we want to do. So please support us if you like listening to the show. You know, there's a lot of people listening to the show. We know there's more people listening to it than us Patreon subscribers. So if you want to back us, please do so.
That's it. I mean, you can once you finish this show, if you're part of the Inner Sanctum, you can just head over to the Arcane chapters, and carry on listening to the discussion on interdimensional portals. That also reminds me of one thing, Freddie, we were going to mention, that if you're part of the Inner Sanctum, you're well within your rights to send us an email or a message and tell us a subject you'd like us to discuss for the Fortean Oracle. So if there's a particular subject that you'd like us to chat about for an hour or an hour and a half, let us know and we'll talk about it, and we'll also give you we'll big you up and give you a shout out.
Definitely, yeah, because we like to throw these subjects at Nathan. That's why we do it randomly with the PG tips cards and whatnot. So to put him on the spot, say, right, here we go, talk about this. It's a bit like just a minute, you know, but it's just an hour instead. Yeah. So if you've got any subjects you think that'd be a great subject for him to talk about, we won't tell Nathan beforehand. Me and Dan will know, but we'll throw it at Nathan on the Fortean Oracle and see what he has to say. So if you can think of a subject we haven't covered, or an unusual subject, or something that's even out there, you know, Patreon subscribers only can suggest them.
As long as it isn't about bumming chimpanzees and Michael Jackson, because that story from the last show, it really threw him out as well. He wasn't expecting that at all, and it dazed and confused him. I met him this weekend. I had to drop an engine off. He came from Wales, and I was in Derby, and I picked up a gearbox for a Volkswagen for him, and he came down, and the first thing he commented on was, tell Freddie not to do, or not to throw any more monkey bumming stories in there, because it threw him out. It disrupted his rhythm.
Yeah, I mean that is the one thing that has disrupted his rhythm. I think only the Monkey Jackson's monkey bumming ghost. Yeah, but then I think that disrupts anyone's rhythm, isn't it?
Yeah, I definitely couldn't get any rhythm out of it, so it didn't really ruin my rhythm. Because I didn't have any in the first place when it came to that subject. But Nathan's a sensitive soul, so you got to be careful what you throw at him. So make sure it is a bona fide paranormal subject. Otherwise, there could be trouble.
No monkey bumming. That's something that he doesn't, that frightens him.
It is. There could be trouble. So I think we'll wrap it up. And what we'll do is we'll play out with. I found this originally, actually. Obviously, we had Paul Hardcastle 19 at the beginning of the show, but strangely enough, when I typed it on Google, it came up with the German version first. Which is strange, because it's almost like it's about the Vietnam War, but it's also got like a World War II feel to it, because it's all done in German. So,
So it's a mixture of best of both worlds, eh?
It is, and it's 19, I think it's called. So we'll play out with Paul Hardcastle 19, the German remix, which in itself is strange enough. So we'll see you next time, and thanks for listening.
Have a good one.
Ein US-Militärsprecher gab heute in Saigon bekannt, dass allein in der letzten Woche 700 feindliche Soldaten gefallen sind. Im äußerst hart umkämpften Grenzgebiet zu Nordvietnam verlor der Feind insgesamt 2689 Mann. 19.